Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshura-unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayed. Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishne Sudhama Pagate Dharma Jnana Adibhisaha Kalau Nishtadrshamesha Puranarko Adhinodhitaha. Hare Krishna. So we're going to go into the third seminar in this seminar series where we're studying Vedic Cosmology from the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I see some new faces over here. Hare Krishna, welcome. Did you get a chance to look at the first 2 seminars? Maybe, maybe not. On the website? Okay, that's fine. So today is basically a continuation of where we left off last time. So Ramananda Prabhu, can we have the screen? So do I need to? Yes, cable is connected. So we're going to start from where we left last time and then continue and start new topics. Today the topic is motion of the planets. The couple of things though before we begin. One is that I'm going to pause in between the presentation at suitable points for questions. And we'll have questions like at a higher priority than comments. Comments are also welcome. Actually, I welcome everything, questions and comments. But just so that we don't interrupt the flow and the whole presentation comes out in a sequence that is planned out in, we'll hold questions at until suitable points. Is that okay? And especially for those who are watching us online, they prefer the presentation to come out in a flow. So if somebody just interrupts and asks a question that takes us somewhere else, it's kind of not that helpful for the online audience. So we need to keep that in mind. And the other thing is, sometimes devotees are speaking without the microphone. So we want to make sure everybody speaks during the question answer session in the microphone. So I think microphones are not out yet, but we can have them ready when it's time for the questions and comments. Yeah. Yes, and then there is a light, a small light you see, right? When it's orange, it's mute. And if you press the button, it'll go unmute. And that light will turn green. So make sure you unmute before you start speaking. All right, so should we begin? So do you remember this this picture that we had last time, we ended actually with this, the structure of the universe given in a snapshot, in short. So the green portion in the center is the manifest universe, meaning the Loka realm. And beyond that, the small concentric black circle that you see was the Lokalok mountain, beyond which was the region of unmanifested karma, the Aloka Varsha. And then on top of that, there were these universal coverings, which we explained, which we understood as to be representing the unconscious desires residing in the hearts of the living entities. So this is the big picture of the structure of the universe. And today I wanted to begin by demonstrating how this understanding can help us appreciate the verses in Srimad Bhagavatam in a very nice way. Okay, that's the first thing I wanted to do, to make a connection to what we did last time, and then we'll go into new topics today. So, is the font too small? Yeah. Okay, so what is written over here is the cause and effect. Cause and effect. Right? So, what is causing us to assume different kinds of bodies, subtle and gross body, and keep on going in this world, life after life? It's ultimately the desires that we carry within our heart to enjoy in a certain way, in a specific way. So cause is the desires that reside in our heart, and the effect is what we are experiencing right now. So that's the cause-effect relationship. Now some may argue that given my faculties of mind and intelligence that I have, I will try and figure out what the truth is, what the reality is. But that is like saying that you take the effect and then try to go and fix the cause. So there can be many examples can be given to show us that that is actually not possible. So simple example, it's a very crude example, don't take it literally, but just to give you a feel that you have, suppose, a pot of milk, and the milk is a little bit old, it's not fresh, and you make yogurt out of it, right? And then later when you taste the yogurt, you realize, oh, this is not the best quality yogurt. So probably it's because of the milk. But given that now you have yogurt, you cannot go back and fix the milk if there is some remaining from that original collection, right? So you cannot use the effect to fix the cause in that simple manner. It's just reversing the process. So there's this very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, Gyane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam sthane sthita shrutikatam tanuvan manobhir ye prayasha ajito jita api asita istri lokyam. So this is Lord Brahma praying to Krishna after he comes out of his illusion, that he says that you throw away this speculative process. You give up this process where you use your own faculties of mind and intelligence to figure out what the reality is, what the truth is. And instead, you pay attention to the transcendental sound vibration that is vibrated by yourself, that's by the Lord, and by your pure devotees, by His pure devotees. So what we are saying basically is that you don't try to reverse the process, try to fix the cause starting from the effect, but you actually let some transcendental sound vibration into your system that's coming from the spiritual world. It's coming from outside the realm of this manifest, unmanifest, and the entire universal coverings. So ordinarily, later on the next slide. So what happens when we hear this transcendental sound vibration? The cleansing process begins. And the cleansing process begins from where? From where we are situated at the moment. So you will experience that the mind is getting cleansed, it is getting pacified, it's getting calmer. And when you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, when you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, so the mind and the senses, they come under control. That's the first sign that we are making some kind of advancement. And then the cleansing process continues inside out. So there was one question asked by Shraddha Mataji last time, and I tried to answer that on this Excel sheet. So by the way, if you have not yet looked at, I answered almost all the questions that were asked last time, so you can take a look. So I mentioned this cleansing process inside out. Okay, so that's how you actually make a difference, not by trying to fix the cause by taking what we have at our disposal. So that gives you a new insight into how to understand this verse. Now there's another verse I picked from the same chapter. I show you a picture here, also a cause and effect, right? There's this unfortunate incident that has taken place, and let's say we are sitting in the car that got hit over here. Okay, so you identify this is the cause. This guy was really careless. He went into a direction that he shouldn't be going, and he hit my car, and now I'm really stuck. So again, we have this cause and effect relationship, but what we usually see is the immediate cause. But the cause is not just one thing that is apparent to us immediately, to our senses, the mind and the intelligence, but there's actually a spectrum of causes. There's a whole range of intermediate causes. We can label them as intermediate causes, and then the scriptures help us to understand that actually whatever we are facing right now, whatever we are experiencing, good or bad, is a result of what we have done in the past. So we don't remember our past misdeeds. So we don't have a recollection of that. But they are recorded somewhere, and in due course of time, the reaction to it comes. So although we may see that this guy has hit my car, but actually some of my old past deeds must have been responsible to what I'm experiencing now. It has just manifested in the course of time. And similarly, our unconscious desires, that's the most remote cause that we are mostly not able to see, but that actually propels everything that we are experiencing, that drives everything that we are experiencing, either good or bad. So without knowing this big picture, that there are many causes in between, and it's not just the immediate cause that really drives things around. Unless we understand that, we always keep chasing the immediate cause, and you try to fix problems. And you can notice, you can experience for yourself, if you do that, you'll just get more and more frustrated. Right? There's no really way out of that kind of a vicious circle. So what is advised? Lord Brahma also advises that he gives an example of those devotees who are waiting, who earnestly waits for the causeless mercy of the Lord, but while doing what? While patiently suffering the reactions of their own past misdeeds. So we don't recommend chasing the cause, the immediate cause that we see, but externally we have to do what we had to do. Like example of the car accident, we have to call the police, we have to call our insurance, take care of stuff. But at the night when we go home after the incident, what is our internal thinking? Are we still blaming that guy who hit my car? No, we are thinking that this has happened because of my own some past misdeeds, which is ultimately driven by my desires, ultimately to enjoy. So actually I am the cause, my desires are the cause of whatever I am experiencing. So I have nobody else to blame. So whatever I see apparently is not the actual reality, it's just a link to the ultimate reality. And with this, if we maintain this attitude throughout our life while practicing devotional service, then what happens? Then we are eligible for liberation. Then it becomes a rightful claim. Okay? And then ultimately Krishna is the cause of all causes. And that's the most difficult to see. He's behind everything. So that's how I wanted to show you that using this picture of the structure of the universe and the relative importance of different layers, how we can understand some of these important verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there was, the next, I've moved on to a new thing. So there was a question about Vaman Dev in the first seminar. How do we understand that? Actually the question started with the example of Hanuman. So Hanuman was attempting to reach out to the sun and trying to eat the sun, thinking it's some kind of fruit. And then I said that Vamandev example is something similar. So Vamandev appears in the arena where Bali Maharaj is preparing for a sacrifice, he shows up as a dwarf Brahmana, a small boy, right? And then in the blink of an eye, within a moment, when he asks for 3 steps of land, he grows into this gigantic size, covering the entire universe in 2 steps, and then there's no place for the 3rd step. So how do we understand such things? So going back to our presentation, to our first seminar, we talked about this hierarchy of like objects, right? The material objects that we experience as the lowest realm. Above that are the concepts, or the subtle realm, and above that is the soul, and above that is the super soul, the soul of all souls. So as the Lord, as the super soul, he pervades all of existence, all of the universe, but in a conceptual fashion. So he is already present everywhere. So it's just a matter of his will that he can manifest phenomenally also in some part of the universe or not. So he appears as a dwarf Brahmana. You can just measure his size, he's just that much tall. But in the blink of an eye, because he's already present throughout the universe in the conceptual realm, and he can just will that by his will, he can just show up in the entire universe, and he can manifest phenomenally as well. So one example I like to give in this regard is, suppose you watch me doing math. You don't see me, you just see my hand movements. And I'm doing elementary math, addition, subtraction, right? And you think I'm an elementary student. Because you don't see me, you just see my hand moving. And then in the next moment, I start doing calculus. And then you're surprised, oh my God, how can this elementary student do calculus all of a sudden? He must be a genius, right? But the fact is that I know elementary math already, and I also know calculus already. It's just that you are not aware of it, right? So I'm conceptually already present. My conceptual realm, my mind and intelligence already spans elementary to high school math. But you are just not aware of it. So when you all of a sudden see that, oh, this guy has jumped from addition to calculus, then it sounds like some kind of mystic power. So in a very similar manner, the Lord exhibits these kind of pastimes for the pleasure of the devotees, but those who do not maintain a devotional attitude, they will just think of this as some kind of mystic power, mystic yoga. So, and actually it is mystic power. He is the Lord of all mystic powers. That's why it's called Yogeshwara. And then similarly, the devotees like Hanuman also have mystic powers. Hanuman has all the 8 siddhis, the yogic siddhis. So therefore, he can become smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest. He can fly in the sky. He can become heavier than the heaviest. He has all the siddhis by the mercy of the Lord, by the strength of his devotional service. So that explains the Vamandev pastime. The more difficult one is Varahadev. So last time there was a lot of questions and we couldn't get to this. How do we understand Lord Varaha lifting the earth from Garbhodak ocean? So this is the kind of picture that we typically see, that Lord Varaha is carrying earth, and earth is depicted as a sphere on his tusk, right? But if you search a little bit more, you'll also find pictures like these. He's not holding a sphere, not a globe, but a flat piece of land. Okay? And there's also a picture like that. He's fighting with, he's killing Hiranyaksha and then lifting a flat piece of land. So now if we go back to remember our structure of the universe, the Bhumandala, the structure, the concentric islands surrounding Jambudvip and including Jambudvip, they have a flat topography in the conceptual realm, right? And so I think it's only in the modern times when we have learned through science that Earth is a sphere, it's a globe, and so on. I think these kind of pictures have come about where he's holding the globe. But there is evidence that if you go in the past where it was believed that the earth is like flat, or the entire Bhumandala structure is flat, he's lifting the entire Bhumandala. So I couldn't find a definite reference that confirms this, but I think he's lifting the entire Bhumandala out of Garbhodak ocean. And that also is kind of reasonable because Earth is Bharatvarsha, is just a small speck in Bhumandala. It's part of Jambudvip, is a small portion Jambudvip, and then Bhumandala itself is so big, so many other dvipas. So it's hard to imagine that only this small portion falls into Garbhodak. I think it's the entire Bhumandala that submerges in the Garbhodak ocean. And you can imagine what kind of demon Hiranyaksha is, that he's able to do that. So it's hard for us to conceive what is actually going on, but I just try to make some notes to try to explain. I think I cannot explain it to everybody's satisfaction, but the first point is that it's most likely the Bhumandala, inside Bhumandala being submerged in Garbhodak ocean. So we understood Garbhodak ocean as the state of the universe in an unmanifest, which is unmanifest, and it's also in an undifferentiated form. That's why it's like water, it's ocean. So somehow Hiranyaksha is able to send this entire Bhumandala along with all the living entities into an unmanifest state, back to the unmanifest state, where they cannot no longer perform any activities, they cannot experience the cycle of their karma, they cannot experience the time factor, and so on. So it's kind of reversing the natural evolution of the universe. And so it's basically obstructing or trying to oppose the plan of the Lord, because the plan of the Lord is to manifest the universe so that the living entities can start outliving their karma. And he's trying to reverse that. So the Lord doesn't like it, it's against his plan. So that's what a demon is. He tries to oppose the plan of the Lord. And then the Lord appears at Varahadev and kills him. So that's my current understanding about Lord Varaha and what it means that he's lifting earth from the Garbhodak ocean. Is that okay? All right. So now we address a couple of things that were pending from last time. Now we are ready to go into the new topic, which is motion of the luminaries in the sky. So we see a lot of luminaries in the sky, right? And last time some devotees were asking, what about Mars, Venus, Moon, and so on? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So these three, the topics in this seminar are from these three chapters, 21 through 23 of the 5th canto: the movement of the sun, the orbits of the planets, and the Shishumar planetary system. Okay, it's only 3 chapters, but actually there's a lot of rich content here. And at the outset, I want to mention that this is probably the most difficult one to comprehend. So I apologize if in the beginning, if I'm not able to answer your questions. I think there surely will be questions which I may not be able to answer, but I'll try. And we'll keep a track of these questions, right? But we can always come back to answer them later. And before I begin, I'm going to mention that we are not talking about planets above Bhumandala. Last time we talked everything in Bhumandala, and we talked a little bit above Bhumandala, which was Mount Sumeru. We talked about the Swarga on top of Mount Sumeru, but now we are going to go above that. Okay, so that we are going above, and in the next seminar, which is the last one, it will be below, and that will cover the entire structure or the entire description of the cosmos. So we start with time. What is time? So I'm asking a question. No, you're not asking me. This is not time for questions, but just on top of your mind, what is time? But make sure you take the microphone.
It's the manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Lord, like 25th element, I remember, I think.
Oh, that's really very high answer.
And then I think internally he's the super soul and externally he manifests as the time.
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. It's right. But I want something that we can relate to.
Energy of the Lord that moves the whole world forward and enables the living entities enjoy or suffer there.
That is also correct. That's also correct. Yeah, different aspect of the... Yes, Mataji?
Prabhu, I was thinking since it's movements of the sun.
Oh, okay. You're already thinking of movement of the sun.
Because when the sun moves on the chariot, that determines the time.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
Pretty much like day and night is time for me.
Day and night is time. Yeah, that's very practical, right? And that actually is the case. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, time I am the great destroyer of the worlds. And I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers on both sides will be slain. So, time is the agency that destroys. So, we don't see destruction only in the phenomenal realm. We see destruction all the time in the phenomenal realm. Our house gets old with time. Our body gets old with time. Things come and disappear with time. So, that's one manifestation of time. But that's not it. We are also experiencing a change of experience. Our mood, our subtle body, our state of consciousness, our mind, intelligence is changing all the time. At one moment I am happy, the next moment I am sad, and vice versa. So these things are always keep changing. So a nice way to encapsulate what we are observing in our own lives, in the phenomenal world, and also in the conceptual, in our internal subtle realm, is that we are actually experiencing the destruction of our experience at every moment. So time is the agency which destroys the current experience and it brings forth a new one. Okay? So that's a simple practical definition of time which we can relate to. And yeah, like Satya Prabhu said, so it's correct. So I'm just putting a simple definition of time over here. So in the beginning, the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada explains fivefold reality, that 5 aspects of reality that the Bhagavad Gita is dealing with. And the 4 of them are listed here: Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti. 4th one is Kala, time. And what's the 5th one? Karma. It is karma. But these 4 are said to be eternal. That means they're always present. Even when the universe is unmanifest, these 4 factors also enter into an unmanifest state, but they are still present. But the 5th one, karma, is not eternal. The karma can be destroyed. It's not eternal. But there is a connection between kala and karma. And just like we explained on the previous chart, that we are noticing a change in experience, right? And our experience of time, kala, is manifest basically through the experience or the change of karma. And that we can call as something as phenomenal time. Just like in the first seminar, we had phenomenal and numinous, right? Phenomenal space and phenomenal reality and numinous reality. So similarly, the kala we are experiencing, time we are experiencing because we are experiencing change all the time. So that's phenomenal time. But there's also an agency that's bringing about changes on the cosmic scale, which are beyond the purview of the individual living entities. And that can be referred to as the numinous time. And the phenomenal time depends on the numinous time. Right? The changes that we are experiencing is part of the change of the entire universe. So it's one agency that's bringing about all the change, but we experience a portion of it, and most of it is not in our experience. But changes are taking place throughout the universe. And the numinous time in the Vedic cosmology is a person. And that person is Lord Ananta. Lord Ananta is lying down on the Garbhodakoshan. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is lying down on the Anantashesh, on the Garbhodakoshan. So this Lord Ananta, he represents this cosmic, universal, numinous time. Okay, but even the phenomenal time that we experience is also personal, right? Because the changes that you are experiencing are not the same as the changes that I am experiencing. The changes are very unique. They're very subjective. We all are going through unique changes. So our experience of time is also personal. The reason for that is because inherently time is a person. And that person is Lord Ananta. Okay? It's Lord Ananta lying down at the bottom of the universe. the phenomenal we experience as personal because our because the changes that we are experiencing, it is unique to me, right? It's a very personal thing, right? The changes that I'm going through, the changes that you are going through. So these all changes are connected, right? Your changes and my changes may seem to be disconnected, but they are connected through the universal time, to the numinous time. So Lord Ananta is aware of the changes that everybody is going through, but you and I are aware of changes that only we are going through. So I'll pause for questions in few minutes. Is that okay? So the timekeeping agent. So if there is a time that is being manifest in the universe, now we need an agent who can keep a good order, good control over the time. Okay? So the movement of the sun is what defines our activities throughout the day and at night. You can do a thought experiment later on. You just close your eyes and imagine for 5 minutes, right? Don't open your eyes, don't look anywhere around. Make it completely dark inside. And then imagine that there is no sun. The sun is not going to rise the next day. And then we'll run out of all electricity, gas and everything, so it'll be completely dark. No light bulbs, nothing. And imagine yourself doing something in that darkness. I guarantee you that you'll not be able to do anything. So our karma, our activities cannot even begin to manifest without the sun. So we understood we understood time as the agency that is bringing about changes, that is helping us to exhaust or live our karma that is in store for us. But that is made possible because the sun illuminates the universe. Without the sun, you can have actually no activity going on in the manifest universe. So the movement of the sun, it really defines our activities. And even on a general, like a day-to-day level, we experience that. When it's morning, we wake up, right? When it's night, we go and take rest. And it's just so obvious. So movement of the sun enables the manifestation and experience of our karma. Sun is therefore the timekeeping agent in the universe, and it's a representative of the Lord. It's a representative of the Lord. So cosmology is incomplete without studying the movement of the sun. Okay, so that's why we have to get into this portion where we talk about how the sun is moving and how it's bringing about changes. But now we are aware of this time called, what is the time, right? Look at your clock, till 7 p.m. What is that time? Is that really time? It's actually not the time like we talked about now, but it's only an impersonal representation of the time that we just discussed. It's a measure, it's an impersonal measure of elapsed time. That's all it is. Therefore, when my clock says 7, your clock also says 7, right? Everybody's clock says 7. But the changes that you are experiencing at 7 p.m. are different than mine. That is real time, but then you have impersonalized that and represented it as just one number, which is same for all. That's how your personal aspect becomes impersonal. You make it same for everyone. And that's very easily done using numbers. So therefore, what is the time? The reading of the clock is actually not the time. Does that make sense? Okay. So and obviously clocks have no meaning if they are not correlated to the movement of the sun. Okay, so the clocks that we see and the time they read out for us is actually not the time we are interested in. I mean, that's of course useful from practical point of view, just to keep a note of where the sun is and what am I supposed to do depending upon the position of the sun. But beyond that, that is not really the time. And in the olden days, we all know there were sundials, right? That's how time was measured when there were no clocks and watches. So the real timekeeping agent is the sun. And we read this verse, Yachakshuresha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rashesha Tejaha. So sun is described as the king of all planets in the Brahma Samhita. is full of infinite effulgence, is the image of the good soul, is as the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in persons of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. So he's performing a journey and he's keeping time in order. He's keeping time under control in the manifest universe. And what kind of journey he's performing is what we're going to look into. Okay, questions so far?
So the phenomenal is also Ananta.
Closer.
The phenomenal time is also Anantadev, right? I mean,
it's representation of Anantadev. Yes.
So
we are experiencing time. We are actually experiencing God. We are experiencing the Lord, and that's why I said this is the right answer. And you can think of it as the super soul or Lord Ananta. It's fine. Yes, Tirtha Prabhu, take a microphone.
Hare Krishna. So we can understand like our life surrounds around the movement of sun.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you think when you look at any of the scriptures, most of the references around the movement of the moon, like you say like Ekadashi, even all the events and festivals, everything is around the movement of the moon.
Good question, yeah. So we can make a calendar, or we can have a record of time depending on either the movement of the sun or the moon. They are not independent of each other, they are correlated, as you'll see very briefly. So either way can be done. That's why we have two calendars. One is a solar calendar and there's a lunar calendar. And we typically follow the lunar calendar. And why we do that is a part that goes into more of astrology than astronomy or cosmology. So I won't be able to answer that question here, but in general I can say that the movement of the sun and moon are not like independent. They are correlated, and there is a very good reason why we follow the lunar calendar. We track the movement of the sun, and accordingly our days, auspicious days, Ekadashi, and even our birthday according to the Vedic calendar is determined by the lunar calendar. Yeah.
Prabhu, I was just going to comment. I think some parts of India, they follow the solar calendar
yes.
as well.
I mean, in the whole Western world, we follow the solar calendar.
Yeah.
But in some parts of India, it's possible. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Any other question? Yes, Prabhu.
I have a question regarding the appearance of Lord Narasimhadev.
Okay.
I mean, we discussed the different Varshas in the Jambu Dweep, and there is Narasimha, I think Hari Varsha.
Varsha. Mm-hmm.
So, but we also have Narasimhadev appearance in Bharat Khanda.
Bharat Varsha. Yes.
Even we have the places where Lord Narasimha appeared.
That's right, yeah.
So is it
So he's not restricted to appear in only one Varsha, right? He can appear in multiple Varshas. He can appear anywhere in the universe as he so desires. But we have a record that in Bharat Varsha he appeared, right? And then we have the places where he appeared. So that is true. And we have beautiful temples of the Lord in those places. But the difference is that in Hari Varsha, he is the presiding deity. He's present as Narasimhadev, as the prominent deity, as the form of the Lord, like for elaborate amount of time. He's not just like he's appearing and disappearing, but he's present there. And Prahlad Maharaj is the principal chief resident, and he's always worshipping Lord Narasimhadev. So that's the difference. He's there, permanent, or for a long period of time. Here he comes and goes.
So Prabhu, so phenomenal time depends on the karma, right? Experience.
Phenomenal time depends on
the personal experience depends on the karma.
The aspect of time that we are experiencing can be understood by the change that we are going through.
That change is because of the karma.
Yeah, that change is because of karma.
Then what happens when the karmas are wiped off?
When karmas are wiped off,
then the time aspect.
You won't. Yeah. Then we stop experiencing the time within the universe. Let's say pure devotees. Last time we talked about this, right? They are out of the universe, right? But they are also within the universe. Are they experiencing time? No, not like we do. So when the karma, Hare Krishna, Srivas Manitra. So answer is yeah. So they won't experience time like we do. So since Srivas Manitra just arrived, so we started by addressing a couple of questions from last time, and then I've just started the new session when we're talking about time. We just defined what time is, and then we're going to start the motion of planets. Yes, there was one hand here, Satya Prabhu.
I think just to confirm my understanding of your answer, you said pure devotees don't experience time. By that, we are to understand that they don't have any change in consciousness or change in their karma.
They are going through changes, but the changes of a different kind.
Not of phenomenal or conceptual, but more of spiritual.
Right. So, for example, in Brahma Samhita, there's a description that in spiritual world in Goloka, is there time or there's no time? There's no time. What does that mean? No time means no change? No, there is change. The devotees in Goloka are constantly going through change. They're going through anxiety, sometimes pain, sometimes ecstasy. So many changes they're going through. So why do we say there's no time? That's the answer. The rasa that the devotees are experiencing, so Tirtha Prabhu said the destruction part is not there, and that is the answer. That the time that we experience is basically destruction of the current experience, and also other things get destroyed. But the rasa, the mellow that the devotees are experiencing in the reciprocation of love with Krishna is never destroyed. Never destroyed. So they can come back to that mellow, even if the mellow changes from anxiety to ecstasy or whatever. Like there's so many mellows. If they change the mellow, the original mellow remains, and they can come back to it at a later time, and even a more enhanced version of it, more enhanced version or intense version of it.
When you say
so, the mellows are never destroyed. Therefore, they don't experience time.
Destroyed means completely destroyed, and then in the spiritual it's unmanifested and then manifest, or because there has to be a stoppage of experience in spiritual world also, right? A change. When the change occurs, the previous experience at least goes unmanifested, right?
Actually, it's hard to comprehend what is going on in the spiritual world. So I don't want to go too much in that direction. I don't know exactly what's going on there. But one thing is for sure, that their mood of service and the mood of the rasa that they're experiencing with the Lord is never destroyed. Okay, and that's why that's how they're not experiencing time like we do. Yes, Prabhu. Srivas, microphone.
Just to add to your thing, when Arjuna asks the universal form in the 11th chapter, what's your mission? He says, time, I am the destroyer of the world. So.
That's right. Yes, he's the destroyer. Yeah, that's what we started with. Destruction. Time means destruction in the material world. Okay.
And just to clarify that time doesn't mean change. It is destruction actually.
Well, destruction and change go together, right? Destruction and change go together. When something is destroyed, that means it has changed. If it's changed, means some part is destroyed. So we define destruction not only in the phenomenal realm, but also our experience, the current whatever I'm experiencing is constantly being destroyed, and a new experience is being thrust upon me, right, by the influence of time. So this change that we are experiencing is basically time. That's our definition.
I was just thinking that is there a little example on how the pure devotees don't experience the destruction? I mean, so it's a little vague in terms of there's no change in their consciousness? Like, for example, I can totally understand in my scenario where some days I can be totally Krishna conscious, some days I can absolutely be material conscious. So, I can go up and down. So doesn't that happen to them? So, like, what is it that...
No, they are pure devotees. They are seeing, they are reciprocating with Krishna all the time. So they are undergoing changes in that realm. And we see manifestation of that in this world, and we understand in whichever way our consciousness allows us to understand. So we may think that, they are also going through changes like mine. Their bodies also seems to be getting older and so on. But that's just the externals. And I am limited to only that level of reality because my consciousness doesn't allow me any further. But even while situated in the so-called material world, in the material atmosphere, their business is only service of Krishna. They are reciprocating with Krishna all the time.
I was just thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, I was thinking of an analogy. If suppose a devotee is stuck in a traffic for 2 hours, and the next there are many people, on the freeway, and then there are people who are really super frustrated about it. The devotee is happily chanting or listening to kirtan or listening to a nice lecture, so totally in bliss. So they're actually experiencing the same thing. Both of them are stuck in the traffic, but one is in bliss and the other one is in misery.
Yeah.
So just thinking.
Right, different consciousness. Okay, I think we should move on. Okay, so the next section is the one that I mentioned is the difficult part, but we'll gather some courage and go through it together. Shivaspanitru is also here. But just like as I mentioned in the beginning that, we'll only pause at certain moments for questions and comments. So for the next 10 slides or so, 10 or 12 slides, it'll be one way. Okay. So if there's a very urgent desire to ask some question or something, just write it down. Let it out so that you don't feel burdened. Okay? And then when we pause for questions, you can bring out the questions. Some we can answer now, some we'll answer later. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain certain concepts from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Like I have pictures, pictorial illustrations, and I have some explanations. But in between, I'm also going to read a little bit from the Bhagavatam, just like we did last time. So we're going to go back and forth and try to give you a flavor for what's described in these chapters. Okay, so we start with the zodiac and the sun. So this picture I got from Wikipedia, it's not from the Bhagavatam. It actually describes, I thought it's a good starting place because this is how we currently understand what's going on in the solar system or the motion of the sun according to modern astronomy. So can you see the Earth? The Earth is represented as a globe, right? And it has an axis which is tilted. It's a little bit tilted. And the sun is over here. So the common understanding these days is that the Earth is going around the sun, right? And they are pretty much in the same plane. But let's say I don't worry about motion of the Earth around the sun, but I'm situated in one place on Earth. And I want to see where the sun is in the sky every day. So it's the other way around. We turn the question other way around. So then what I will notice is that the sun gradually moves through the sky. So you'll notice that if that the sun is in a different place slightly every day. Day to day difference is very hard to tell, but month to month is not so difficult to tell. So there is this concept of an ecliptic. What does ecliptic mean? That you project the motion of the sun onto a imaginary sphere in the sky. It's called a celestial sphere. And you track the motion of the sun along this sphere throughout the year. Okay? The motion that it goes through, the trajectory that the sun follows along the celestial sphere is called the ecliptic. And then if you project the equator, the equator, the sun has an equator, right? And then you project this equator, you expand it out and also project it onto this celestial sphere, then the celestial equator will look something like that. So they are not exactly the same. The motion of the sun and the celestial equator are not the same. They actually intersect at 2 points, but they are at an angle to each other. And this angle is formed because the Earth is That's what we understand. The earth is tilted in its axis when it goes around the sun. So therefore they're not in the same angle. So one solar year is basically and what is this all what are all these bright things that you see on the celestial sphere? This is the background of stars through which the sun seems to be moving throughout the year, and the star constellations that you can identify in different portions of the sky, that is referred to as the zodiac. There are 12 zodiac signs, right? And it is a cultural thing that all cultures have some names for these zodiacs. Even our Vedic culture has the names. It's called Rashi. So the sun appears to move through these different star constellations on the celestial sphere, and that's called the zodiac. So the sun is moving through the zodiac throughout the year. The time that the sun takes to return to the same point in the zodiac is a year. So the sun's motion is periodic, right? It starts at a certain point and then it comes back to the same point after some time, and that time difference is a year. And there are 12 zodiac signs, and we roughly correspond 1 month to the time taken for the sun to travel through one zodiac. Okay, so that's what the current understanding is. So the sun passes through 12 zodiac signs in a solar year, and one solar year is equal to 365 and a quarter day. It's not a whole number. And that's the reason after every 4 years we need to add 1 day to the solar calendar to make it a leap year, 366 days. But it takes 365 days and a quarter day to go through the zodiac. So there is zodiac and sun in Vedic cosmology also, okay? Because we're looking at the same sky, right? It's not a different sky, it's not a different star constellations, it's not a different sun. We're looking at the same luminaries in the sky. So there is zodiac and there is sun. So I've represented the zodiac as this circle and the sun as small yellow dot. So solar year, the definition of solar year is exactly the same. Just like we looked right now, the time it's taken to go through once in the zodiac is the solar year. But the explanation is very different. And that's what I'm going to try to go through. So in between is Mount Sumeru. So if you remember last time, the orbit of the sun is on Pushkar Dweep. It's one of the islands, at the end, it's the outermost island, and beyond that is the ocean of sweet water. Then there's some golden land, and then Lokalok mountain, right? So the Pushkar Dweep is the last one. And on Pushkar Dweep, in the middle of Pushkar Dweep, there is Mount Manasotara, on which the sun god's chariot is mounted, and it's going in an orbit on the Manasotara mountain. So it's at a distance from Sumeru, Mount Sumeru. That's basically the point here. Okay. So now it is explained in the Surya Siddhanta. So this information is not coming from Srimad Bhagavatam, but very soon I'm going to relate it to something that's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So it is said in the Surya Siddhanta that the zodiac is moving. It's not a constant stationary thing in the sky. It is moving. How fast is it moving? It says that it's moving 1,582,237,828 times in a Chaturyugi. Chaturyugi is the cycle of one cycle of Satya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali Yuga. So that's 404,320,000 years. So one Chaturyugi is that much, 10 times the 10 times the duration of the Kali Yuga. And if you divide this big number here by the number of years in the Chaturyugi, you get 366.25. So there are 366.25 days in a solar year according to the motion of the zodiac. And those days are called sidereal days. Okay? But the sun is also moving along with the zodiac, but at a slightly smaller speed. So the number of revolutions that it makes around Mount Sumeru is slightly less than that of the zodiac. It's 1,577,917,828 in a Chaturyugi. And if you divide that by the number of years in a Chaturyugi, you get 365.25. Exactly the same as we find if we just observe the night, if you just observe the movement of the sun in the sky. And these days are said to be the solar days. Okay, so the solar days is exactly the same modern understanding, Vedic understanding, but the explanation is different. Now we come to a potter's wheel example. This is there in the Bhagavatam. You may have already heard about it. If you have not read already, then we can read it together here. So in the 22nd chapter, King Parikshit inquires from Shukadeva Goswami that he's perplexed by seemingly two contradictory explanations to the motion of the sun. So he says, "My dear Lord, you have already affirmed the truth that the supremely powerful sun god travels around Dhruvaloka with both Dhruvaloka and Mount Sumeru on his right." That means going in a clockwise direction. So don't worry about Dhruvaloka. We'll describe Dhruvaloka later on. But we know Mount Sumeru is going in a clockwise direction, and that's the motion I just mentioned, right? It's going in a clockwise direction around Mount Sumeru, and the certain number of times in a Chaturyugi. Yet at the same time, the sun god faces the signs of the zodiac and keeps Sumeru and Dhruvaloka on his left. How can we reasonably accept that the sun god proceeds with Sumeru and Dhruvaloka on both his left and right simultaneously? So, in addition to the motion which is clockwise, we talked about, the sun is also moving anti-clockwise at the same time. Okay, so how does that happen? And the answer is given in the next verse. Shukadeva Goswami clearly answered, "When a potter's wheel is moving and small ants located on this big wheel are moving with it, one can see that their motion is different from that of the wheel because they appear sometimes on one part of the wheel and sometimes on the other. Similarly, the signs and constellations with Sumeru and Dhruvaloka on the right move with the wheel of time, and the ant-like sun and other planets move with them. The sun and planets, however, are seen in different signs and constellations at different times. This indicates that their motion is different from that of the zodiac and the wheel of time itself." So what does that mean? So imagine now the zodiac is the wheel and the sun is the ant. So the zodiac is moving in the anti-clockwise direction at the speed that we mentioned in the last page. That's this arrow. But the sun is also moving in the anti-clockwise direction, but it's at a slightly slower speed. Which means that if you observe the motion of the zodiac, motion of the wheel, the sun or the ant will appear at different places on the wheel throughout the year because it is moving slightly slower. And the difference is exactly one revolution in a year. And therefore, although they both are moving anti-clockwise, the sun appears to move clockwise through the zodiac once in a year. So the zodiac and the sun are moving clockwise, but the apparent motion of the sun is anti-clockwise because it's going in the other way around Mount Sumeru on his left. So that's how we can understand that the sun has these both motions, one going with Sumeru on the right, one with Sumeru on the left. And that's becoming because of the difference in the speeds with which the zodiac and the sun are moving. Is that okay? So you'll come across this in the in Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's how we understand. So movement through the zodiac. So this is another picture, and then now we have again it's a picture from kind of illustration from modern astronomy. That's why you see the sun in the center, Earth going around it, but you actually see the projection of the sun onto the zodiac, and it looks like the sun is moving through the zodiac. And the names of the zodiac are mentioned over here. The 12 zodiac signs, 12 rashis. So coming to our picture from Vedic cosmology. So we have the zodiac, we have the sun, we have Mount Sumeru in the center, and these are the different zodiac signs that the sun moves through in the anti-clockwise direction. One half, the one on the north side, when the sun goes through those zodiac signs, it's called Uttarayanan, and when it goes through the ones on the south, it's called Dakshinayanan. Okay, and Ayana is a period of time where it goes through half the zodiac. So Uttara is north, Dakshina is south. So that's how we understand the motion of the sun through the zodiac. Now there's some more details given in the Bhagavatam, that when it enters into Capricorn, the days, the length of the day begins to increase. And that you can also notice around December, January time, the length of the day increases. So that means at that time when the day begins to increase, the night is actually longer. So when the day starts to increase, the gap is bridged. And when it comes in Aries, the number of days and nights are equal. But the days continue to increase. The duration of the day continues to increase, and it increases through Cancer. And then when it enters into Leo, that is in the Dakshinayanam, then the duration of the day starts to reduce. And then because now the day is longer, at some point the day and night will again be equal, and that's in Libra. And then it comes back in Capricorn, and this cycle continues. Okay? So that's the motion of the sun through the zodiac and Dakshinayanam and Uttarayanam and the duration of the days. So one more thing about modern versus Vedic understanding. So according to modern astronomy cosmology, we talked about this celestial equator and celestial sphere, right? And we talked about the ecliptic. So now the Earth is represented in this picture as straight, no axis. So basically the ecliptic is tilted, and the equator is flat, right? But the two intersect. And then there are these terminologies called the summer solstice, the winter, and then there's equinoxes, right? Vernal and autumnal equinoxes. So these are the times when the days and nights are equal. There you experience the longest day, there you experience the shortest day. So from observational point of view, there are many, basically we have same observations, but the explanations are different. So that's the point I want to highlight. According to Vedic cosmology, in the conceptual map of the universe, the sun is situated 100,000 yojanas above Bhumandala. It is never in the plane of Bhumandala. So the picture that we get of the solar system, the earth and the sun are in the same plane, that basically doesn't hold in Vedic cosmology. So where is the difference coming from? The difference is coming from the fundamentally different description of the universe. One is taking the physical worldview all the way through from beginning to end, and the other one is starts with the conceptual worldview, and then we come down to the phenomenal world also, phenomenal space also, and we make these different observations. So the observations are the same, right? Because they cannot be different. But the theory behind the observation is very different, and therefore the explanations are different. So now let me see. I have some notes over here, so I want to see if I've missed anything. Yeah, we can move forward. So now sun's motion, now we're back to sun's motion on Manasottara mountain. So now this circle is no longer the zodiac. Okay, the circle is now the Manasottara mountain, situated on Pushkar Dweep. So the sun, although it appears to be going in an anti-clockwise direction through the zodiac once a year, its actual motion is clockwise, right? And we saw how many times it revolves in the Chaturyogi. So the radius from the center of Mount Sumeru to the Manasottara mountain is 15.75 million yojanas. And if you calculate the circumference, the amount of distance that it needs to go through, in one revolution is about 95.1 million yojanas, where 2 pi is taken as 6. It's not 6.28, I think. Okay. So the distance that the sun covers in 6 hours, quarter of a day, is this much. So all numbers are in yojanas. So that's why I didn't mention units anywhere, but everything is yojanas in my presentations. is 23.775 million yojanas in 6 hours. That's the rate at which the sun is moving through on the top of this Mount Manasotara. Sorry. So here I want to actually read something from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there are 4 residences mentioned over here. I think you can see these, right? There's this Devadhani, the abode or the residence of Indra on the mountain. There's Samyamani, the residence of Yamaraj. Nimalochani, that's Varuna, and Vibhavari, that's moon. So there are residents of these 4 demigods. It's mentioned that they reside on the mountain on Mount Manasotara in these 4 locations, and the sun is going through these 4 locations like periodically. Okay. So it's described in the 21st chapter that from the residence of Yamaraj, the sun travels to Nimalochani, the residence of Varuna, from there to Vibhavari, the residence of the moon god, and from there again to the residence of Indra. In a similar way, okay, this is actually going a little bit forward, but I'll read it nevertheless. In a similar way, the moon, along with the other stars and planets, becomes visible in the celestial sphere and then sets again, becomes invisible. So just like the sun appears during the day and it becomes invisible, so similarly the other planets also go through that, and that appearance is coming because of this motion in the clockwise direction that the sun is going through. Thus the chariot of the sun god, which is Traimaya or worshipped by the words Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, travels to the 4 residences mentioned at the speed of 3.4008 million yojanas in a muhurta. Muhurta is mentioned to be as 48 minutes. 48 minutes. So here I gave you 6 hours. So if you divide that suitably and find out how many yojanas it moves in 48 minutes, that's called a muhurta. It travels 3.4 some million yojanas. Okay, so now we have this picture. I have taken this picture from the Bhagavad Subodhini. If you have the copy, you'll notice this picture. So that's kind of the visual image that we get. So there's Mount Sumeru, there is Bhumandala. This topography is that of Bhumandala, and then on Pushkar Dweep on Mount Manasotara there is the sun situated on his chariot, the sun god's chariot. And this is 100,000 yojanas above Bhumandala. And we haven't talked about Dhruvaloka yet, but we will get there in this presentation. But the Dhruvaloka is also mentioned over here. And okay, so now I want to read again from Bhagavatam. So this is from jumping ahead. This is from the 21st chapter. The chariot of the sun god has only one wheel, which is known as Samvatsara. So when I'm reading, you can just hear. There's nothing more on the screen. There are 12 months. The 12 months are calculated to be its 12 spokes. The 6 seasons are the sections of its rim, and the 3 Chaturmasya periods are its 3-sectioned hub. One side of the axle carrying the wheel rests upon summit of Mount Sumeru, and the other rests upon Manasotara mountain. Affixed to the outer end of the axle, the wheel continuously rotates on the Manasotara mountain like the wheel of an oil pressing machine. So the axle that is being talked about is this one here, the one that is horizontal. The actual description is on top of Mount Sumeru, so maybe this picture needs some correction. It's shown at the bottom of Mount Sumeru, but it should be somewhere over here. And then the other end of the axle is connected to the wheel of the sun god's chariot. And this example is given of an oil pressing machine. Has any of you seen an oil pressing machine? I tried to look for a picture. I couldn't find one.
Yeah, YouTube videos.
Okay, so Gandharva Madhavi said there are YouTube videos. I'm going to go and check out later. Okay, I'll continue reading. As in oil pressing machine, the first axle is attached to the second axle, which is 1/4 as long. The upper end of the second axle is attached to Dhruvaloka by a rope of wind. So now this description about the second axle. You see the second axle is at an angle and it's connected to the first axle, and this is connected to Dhruvaloka. And this axle is 1/4 the length of that axle. And this is said to be connected to Dhruvaloka by a rope of wind. So this is something very confusing. And what is that rope of wind? So in Vedic cosmology, all the planets are hooked to the Dhruvaloka through the pole star by these ropes of wind. And these ropes of wind represent the prana of the universe. And I'm going to talk in detail about what is prana and where it is coming from and how we understand that. But what this actually represents is that the karma that we are experiencing, okay, it is being observed by these luminaries in the sky, including the sun. Sun is said to be the eye of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the sun doesn't keep any information of this karma to itself. It passes on to Dhruvaloka. So all the karma is transacted with Dhruvaloka, but through these planets. Okay, so whatever we are doing here is actually being observed by the sun. But the sun passes on the information to Dhruvaloka, and it is this. In the earlier section we talked about Lokalok mountain, right? The Lokalok mountain is very tall, but it extends up to Dhruvaloka, not above that. So the way to understand that is that the height of the Lokalok mountain, it doesn't block Dhruvaloka. So when our karma is transacted through Dhruvaloka, the unmanifest karma, that the reaction that is about to come, that information goes to the Aloka Varsha, but it surpasses, it goes over the Lokaloka mountain. So it's kind of visual picture that I'm trying to give you. I mean, don't take it literally. These things are not happening in visual space. But that's the importance of the Lokaloka mountain extending up to Dhruvaloka, not beyond that. Okay? So the information doesn't go from sun directly into Aloka Varsha. It goes through the pole star. So all our karma is being transacted through the pole star. And the pole star Dhruvaloka is said to be the abode of Lord Vishnu within the universe. Okay, so it's basically he's a representation of the super soul. Somebody asked this question, Rajendra Kumar Prabhu asked this question, where is Shvetadvip? Is it on Dhruvaloka? And I looked it up, yeah, it is on Dhruvaloka. And there is actually a milk ocean on Dhruvaloka. So last time there was this, I had this question about where is the milk ocean? There was one in Bhumandala, but now there's another one on Dhruvaloka. So, and because it's said abode of Lord Vishnu, it's plausible that Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is situated there. But I'm not sure, because in that description which I read in 4th canto, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is not mentioned. But Shvetadvip is mentioned. Okay, so it's most likely the case. So basically whatever we are doing, whatever activities we are engaged in, the super soul is taking a note, right? Super soul is in our heart, but the representation of that is of the same Lord is also on Dhruvaloka, and that's how the manifest and unmanifest karma is being. We're going through that cycle. This information is getting exchanged between the Loka and the Aloka Varsha. My dear king, the carriage of the sun god's chariot is estimated to be 3.6 million yojanas long and 1/4 as wide, which is 900,000 yojanas. It's 900,000 yojanas wide. The chariot's horses, which are named after Gayatri and other Vedic meters, are harnessed by Arunadev to a yoke that is also 900,000 yojanas wide. This chariot continuously carries the sun god. Although Arunadev sits in front of the sun god and is engaged in driving the chariot and controlling the horses, he looks backward towards the sun god. There are 60,000 saintly persons named Valikhilias, each the size of a thumb, who are located in front of sun god and who offer him eloquent prayers of glorification. Similarly, 14 other saints, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Yakshas, Rakshasas and demigods, who are divided into groups of 2, assume different names every month and continuously perform different ritualistic ceremonies to worship the Supreme Lord as the most powerful Suryadev, who holds many names. My dear king, in his orbit through Bhumandala, the sun god traverses a distance of 95.1 million yojanas at the speed of 2000 yojanas and 2 kroshas in a moment. A moment is calculated as 1.8 seconds. So you can measure the speed of the sun god in different ways, in per second, per minute, or per hour. So that's a little bit of description of the sun god, how he's mounting this journey, how he's performing this journey, mounting the wheel of time. Okay? So sun, when you look at the sun, now, please offer some obeisances. You don't just look at the sun and say, oh, globe of fire, okay, it's supposed to give me light and heat and let's move on. No. Okay, Vedic Cosmology, we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam that sun has a very, very prominent place within the universe and within our lives. Okay, now let's talk about the sun and the moon. So we understood that the zodiac and the sun, this picture we talked about, right? And the zodiac is moving, the sun is also moving, but its apparent motion is anti-clockwise, and those are the number of... so there are 2 numbers over here. One is the number of revolutions that the zodiac performs in the Chaturyugi, and on the right is the number of revolutions the sun performs in the Chaturyugi. And if you take the difference is exactly 4.32 million. Right? And that means the sun is going 4.32 million times anti-clockwise in a Chaturyugi. And that's exactly once per year. Anti-clockwise. So because we talked about 2 motions which are in the clockwise direction, but slightly different speed, that means it will appear that the sun is going in the anti-clockwise direction at the speed which is the difference of the 2. Okay? So one revolution of the sun in counterclockwise direction is the solar year. Now what is the moon doing? The moon is doing something very similar, but at a much faster rate. Or it appears to be doing this at a much faster rate. And that is explained through that the fact that the radius of the sun's or the moon's orbit is shorter than that of the sun's orbit. The radius information is not in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Also these number of times that the sun and moon revolve, these are not in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, but if you look at this number now, so this number represents the net motion of the sun in the counterclockwise direction, after taking into account the motion of the zodiac and the motion of the moon and so on. This is the final number that we get. So just like the sun moves 4.32 million times in a Chaturyugi, anti-clockwise, the moon moves much more, 57,753,336 times in a Chaturyugi. That's 13.4 times that of the sun. If you just divide this number by 4.32 million, you get 13.4. Okay? So therefore the moon appears to move faster than the sun because it actually is going faster. And that's why you see the cycle of the moon is much more rapid than that of the sun. The sun goes around the zodiac once a year. The moon goes around the zodiac once in a month. And that's the lunar month. It's not 30 days, 27 days. So in the lunar month, the moon goes once around the zodiac. So according to Surya Siddhanta, the radius of the moon is smaller than that of the sun, and that is what gives rise to this apparent faster motion of the moon. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we read that above the rays of the sunshine by a distance of 100,000 yojanas is the moon, which travels at a speed faster than that of the sun. So now the comparison is given between sun's motion and moon's motion. In 2 lunar fortnights, the moon travels to the equivalent of a samvatsara. That means the equivalent of a year of the sun. In 2.25 days, it passes through a month of the sun. And in 1 day, it passes through a fortnight of the sun. And I tried to do a small calculation, taking all these 3 examples. That in the samvatsara of the sun, that means a year of the sun, the moon is moving through only a month, right? 2 fortnights of the moon, that is a lunar month. And lunar month is 27 days. And if you divide that 365.25 divided by 27, you get 13.5. And you take the other 2 examples, you always get 13.5, which matches the number that is in the Surya Siddhanta. Okay, so the two descriptions are consistent, but the way Surya Siddhanta talks about the planets and the motion is quite different than that in Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's to be taken as not contradictory, but it is a different perspective of the same reality. So Srimad Bhagavatam preserves a very pristine outlook. The Surya Siddhanta, maybe not so much. And that's okay. There are different literatures are meant for different purposes. So in my finding, in my study, what I found is the Srimad Bhagavatam never touches the physical plane of reality. It always flies high in the sky. Therefore, it's very hard to catch on and to understand what's going on. But Surya Siddhanta, you can catch on to it because it will describe Earth as a sphere. It's called Bhugola. Okay, so it will talk about planets as they appear to us in phenomenal space. So maybe some kind of bridging can be done through that approach. But I just want to give you an example that the two scriptures in the way they describe, they're not contradictory, although the pictures look very, very different. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit about the moon now. According to stellar calculations, so this mentioned in one of the verses, according to stellar calculations, a month equals 2.25 constellations. Okay, still talking about the sun though. When the sun travels for 2 months, a season passes, and therefore the seasonal changes are considered parts of the body of the year. So I just want to mention here that according to stellar calculation, month is 2.5 constellations. So the first thing, if you're reading about the sun, the first thing that your mind will go to is the zodiac, because zodiac is also star constellations in the sky. But these star constellations are not the zodiac, because in a month it goes to 2.5, right? But the sun actually goes through only one constellation, one zodiac sign in a month. So these constellations are the Nakshatras. These are the lunar mansions. Because you multiply 12 by 2.25, you get 27. So there are 27 Nakshatras. And the moon passes through each one in a day, and the sun passes through 2.25 in 1 month. So that's the difference in their apparent motion. So we talked where the moon is situated. Okay, I think that's all I have here. Oh, there's one more note which is also made in the Surya Siddhanta, is that although the moon appears to move at a faster rate than the sun, its actual speed is said that it's the same. But because its radius is smaller, it actually seems to be going around more number of times than the sun. So this actual speed is the same, because it's mentioned that it covers the same distance in same time as that of the sun. But it appears to move faster for us. Okay. So next is all the other planets. So now I have given you a simple picture over here. So there is Mount Sumeru. It's 84,000 yojanas tall. It's above Bhumandala. It's sticking out of Bhumandala. But the sun is 100,000 yojanas. Are you able to see? I think I should zoom in. Is it okay? I'll zoom in for some time. So the radius of the sun is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's 15.75 million yojanas. That's situated on Pushkar Dweep. But I've stacked all these planets vertically on top of the sun. But although it's not to be taken literally, because the radius of the moon is not mentioned in Bhagavatam, and the radius of the other planets also not mentioned. But but their motion through the zodiac is described. So based on that, we can back calculate what the radius must be. I haven't gone through that exercise, but it can be done. And if we do that, then they will not be all vertically on top of each other. So the distance mentioned in Bhagavatam is only the vertical distance. That's the conceptual space that we talked about in the beginning. So that's the vertical distance. But in addition, there is the radius, which gives rise to which is responsible for how often we see the luminary at the same position in the sky. Okay, so please keep note of that. Don't think that they're all vertically on top of each other. It's just a very simplification that I've made here. So the radius of the moon is not mentioned, but it's certainly smaller than that of the sun. But for now, let's take what we have here. So above the moon, there are these nakshatras, the 27. Sometimes there are said to be 28 nakshatras, but there's an overlap between the two. Abhijit and one of them are overlapping. But the sky is divided into 27 divisions. So, but sometimes the two nakshatras are on top of each other, or they appear at the same time. So there's nakshatras 200,000 yojanas above the moon. Then there is Venus, 200,000 yojanas above that. Above that is Mercury, above that is Mars, above that is Jupiter, above that Saturn. And then so far only 200,000 yojanas apart. And now there's a big jump, 1.1 million yojanas. So above that is the planets of the 7 sages, the Saptarishis. And above that, 1.3 million yojanas, that is the pole star. That's the Dhruvaloka. So this image is obviously not drawn to scale, but I've mentioned all the distances. I'll pause in a moment for questions. Okay. So now there is also description about what all these different planets are doing. So obviously now you must have noted by now that the description is very different than the solar system that we understand, right? All the planets moving the same plane as the sun, and they're going at different rates, and so on, right? This is a completely different description. And if you notice, there is no Uranus, there is no Neptune, okay? And Pluto they have disregarded anyway as a planet now. So there are only 8 planets according to the modern understanding the solar system. But we don't have Neptune and Uranus. Okay, it goes only up to Saturn, and that is the reason there are 7 days in a week, not 8, not 9. So if we were to go by the modern understanding, it should have been 9. But then no, Pluto is not a planet. Let's move it to 8. Where does the 7 come from? Is it an arbitrary number? You can divide the year or a month in as many number of days as you wish in principle, right? But there is 7. Why 7? Because each day, there is a predominating influence of one of the planets on each day. And that's why these days are named after these planets. So Sunday is after the sun god. Okay? And so this is a summary of the description in Srimad Bhagavatam. So what influence these planets have, and then there's some other information about these planets. So for example, the sun, it benefits all planets and it purifies fruitive activities. And it's a representative of the Lord in the material world. Right? Similarly, Monday is named after the moon. Venus, so I haven't mentioned it in the same order, it's not, but I've mentioned according to their heights. So Venus comes next, it's Friday, it's Shukravar, it's called Shukravar, right? Because it's named after Shukra. Mercury is Buddha. Buddha is one of the sons of moon. And that's why Wednesday is called Budhvar. And then Mars is in charge of Tuesday. And then Jupiter, Brihaspati. Brihaspati is in charge of Jupiter, and he takes. He has the predominating influence on Thursday. Therefore, it's Guruvar, right? And then Saturday is Shani or Saturn. The influence of Saturn is pretty dominant on Saturdays. Shani, right? Always very inauspicious. And that's why we go out on Saturdays for book distribution. Weekend warriors, right? So no matter sun or shine or rain, right? Inauspicious, auspicious, we don't really worry about it. We are here to distribute the transcendental message of the Lord. So I'm not going to read through everything, but the description is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So maybe let's read about the moon actually, because I'm going to read about moon also from a little bit more. So the moon is the source of nectarian coolness that influences the growth of food grains. And this we also read in the Bhagavad Gita, right? and it's the predominating deity of everyone's mind. So if your mind is disturbed, then talk to moon. Okay? Or just chant Hare Krishna. Okay, so let me read a little bit now from Srimad Bhagavatam. So in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada writes, when we take into account that the moon is 100,000 yojanas above the rays of the sunshine, it is very surprising that modern excursions to the moon could be possible. Since the moon is so distant, how space vehicles could go there is a doubtful mystery. Modern scientific calculations are subject to one change after another, and therefore they are uncertain. We have to accept the calculations of the Vedic literature. These Vedic calculations are steady. The astronomical calculations made long ago and recorded in the Vedic literature are correct even now. Whether the Vedic calculation or modern ones are better may remain a mystery for others, but as far as we are concerned, we accept Vedic calculations to be correct. Now a little bit about moon. When the moon is waxing the... Okay, actually not this part. Okay, in this way the moon passes through each constellation of stars in 30 muhurtas, an entire day. That's one nakshatra per day. The moon is a source of nectarian coolness that influences the growth of food grains, and therefore the moon is considered to be the life of all living entities. He is consequently called Jiva, the chief living being within the universe. Because the moon is full of all potentialities, it represents the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The moon is the predominating deity of everyone's mind, and therefore the moon god is called Manomaya. He is also called Annamaya because he gives potency to all herbs and plants, and he is called Amritamaya because he is the source of life for all living entities. The moon pleases the demigods, pitas, human beings, animals, birds, reptiles, trees, plants, and all other living entities. Everyone is satisfied by the presence of moon. Therefore, the moon is also called Sarvamaya, all-pervading. Okay, and then so on we go through the different planets above the moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars, and so on. And once we come to Saturn, or above, so there's a small description above that, above Saturn, situated 8.8 million miles above Saturn, so that's 1.1 million yojanas, are the seven saintly sages who are always thinking of the well-being of the inhabitants of the universe. They circumambulate the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu, known as Dhruvaloka, the pole star. Okay, so that's how the different planets are described. The planets of the seven sages, and then the pole stars. So we'll pause here for a few questions. I know you all must be eager by now. Okay, several hands, so let's pass microphone and let's see.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So my question is, so when you have the heights and everything which are in the conceptual realm, right? So are you also assuming that the laws of physics that we know in the phenomenal world also apply to the conceptual?
Very good question. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu is always looking ahead. So I'm going to answer that in the last section of the answer is no. Answer is no, but I will explain why.
Because you said that we can back calculate, and you are talking about relative motion of the sun and the zodiac. So all those things are same phenomena.
But it's all based on the description in Bhagavatam. There's no reference to laws of physics or anything. We don't need laws of physics to back calculate the radii and those things. Actually, the radius calculation is phenomenal because, you're right, because that's based on the observation we are making. So there's a description in the conceptual realm that is given in the Bhagavatam that's also phenomenal. Like for example, here, let me point this out. The Jupiter. If you look at Jupiter, can you see my pointer? It travels to the sign of the zodiac within the period of Parivatsara, not that one. Oh, the last one, the Saturn. Passes through one sign of the zodiac in 30 months. So that's a statement about observation. that we are. So just like the sun goes through the zodiac once in 12 months, once a year, the Saturn is going at a slower rate. It goes once through the zodiac in 30 months. Okay, so I was saying that based on this information, we can back calculate the radius in the conceptual picture.
So that means that the V equals R omega in the sense like velocity.
You may see some correlation. You may see some, yeah. So, but again, this V or the speed that we are seeing is an apparent speed. We are seeing it going at this rate in the sky. But then the description, the actual speed, if you were there on the sun planet or the moon planet, is different. So our apparent observation, apparent motion is different than the actual motion. So I said that we can calculate only the apparent motion based on this information, and that's phenomenal space calculation. And you may see some correlation to V equal to R omega. You may see, but that has nothing to do with the description.
Okay. And one quick observation, Prabhu. So this seems to tie the time into space, this particular slide, because you have the times and it ties to the entities in space.
In space, yeah. Good observation. Yes, Srivas Pandit Prabhu.
So maybe you will explain later, but when landing on the moon, are we going to talk? Yeah, I know. That's something you can just pass, give a reference.
Yeah, I was not going to talk about it, but you read a purport, right, where Srila Prabhupada questioned whether they really went to the moon. So maybe towards the end, I can say a few things about that. I'm trying to avoid controversies.
So one statement when you made that the moon was going around, and you said it covers the same distance, but yet its radius is smaller. It seems apparently contradictory. Can you please elaborate?
No, so the statement that was I said from the Surya Siddhanta, right? It covers the same distance in same time. That means if you calculate the distance the moon travels in a year, taking the radius into account and taking the number of times it revolves, the number will exactly be the same as that of the sun. So because it's the same distance and it's the same speed, then its number of revolutions has to be more in order to cover the same distance. And that's represented as the radius being smaller.
I see.
So it just goes more number of times. It compensates for the smaller distance, smaller circumference. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please take the microphone.
I'll ask a few more questions.
Okay.
Sir, when we move from...
please hold it closer, otherwise the online audience...
We move from
Prabhu, can you help?
Yeah.
Yes.
To Mahabharata, a little difference from what you have spoken of this Bhagavata. Well, at the time of Arjuna appearing, he goes for war against the Kauravas, and Dronacharya is afraid of that his appearance is premature. That means before the end of, it's not yet over, the Ajnatavasa. So according to their oath, they again have to go to forest. So in that sense, when clarification was sought from Bhishmacharya, he assures, yesterday itself the Ajnatavasa period was completed because you have not taken into account the Adhika Masa, which depends on the movement of the moon, not on the movement of the sun. So in fact, the months are made by the movement of moon, not by the movements of the sun.
Please hold it closer.
Yes, sir. The months are really, as we in our Alamnaka Panchanga, what we call, they are depend. They are on the moon, not on the movement of the sun. So how to understand this, sir? Because the movement of the sun makes a year, all right. the sun's movement makes an year, all right, that's 65 days or something, but that doesn't mean that the 12 months are due to the sun's.
That's right. So there are two.
Movement.
That's why at one point there was another question about lunar and solar calendars.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that you can have either one, but according to the Vedic system, we follow the lunar calendar because precisely for the reason that you are mentioning, that it goes through the one cycle of waxing and waning, and that's a moon, that's a month, and that's defined by the motion of the moon, not of the sun. So although the sun goes through the zodiac once a year, and the year calculation is based on the sun, but months and the calculation of the days and birthdays, and all these things we do according to the lunar.
In fact,
motion, lunar calendar.
Even the days and the nights also, they depend on the moon's revolutions around the earth.
The day and night?
Yes, sir. We are confused because
okay. So this is this kind
sense,
of
in a gross sense, though we say that the sun's going round the zodiac and the movement of the moon.
Again, closer.
Though they are similar, they are not exact.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, because if you calculate month based on the motion of sun through the zodiac, and you have to divide that by 12, so you get 30 point something, right? And in modern days we put 30 in one place, 31 in some place, and just do some adjustment, make it 365. We cannot have quarter of a day. Therefore, every 4 years we add 1 day. Right? So it's kind of a adjustment that we make. But the motion of the moon is what defines a month, as Prabhu was saying, because it goes through one clean circle, one clean orbit. There's no quarters, no 30 point something. Yeah, I think the reason is associated with that. But this question also borders on the subject of astrology, which I have not studied. So I don't want to give a detailed answer because I might be wrong. It might be my own interpretation. So I want to study that before I make a detailed comment. But Prabhu is right. Our calendar is based on lunar cycle, because precisely for this reason, the month 27 days is a clean cycle of the moon. It's same place in 27 days. But the sun is the month for the sun is little different. Also, it's a simplification that we assume that the sun goes through one zodiac sign in a month. But actually, if you observe from observation point of view, it spends more time in one zodiac sign, and sometimes it spends less time in another zodiac sign. But it's probably out of just try to make it uniform. We assign 1 month, we divide every month and assign it to one zodiac sign. Yes, Prabhu.
I have a couple of questions, Prabhuji. First question is, you're showing the picture of the zodiac, and related to the zodiac, you're showing the picture of the sun. So my question is, are these zodiac the 27 nakshatras?
No.
And where exactly are they situated? They must be situated behind. So where exactly are they situated from? I understand vertically where they are, but horizontally from Bhumandala, how far are they?
It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned. At least in the Bhagavatam, it's not mentioned. Maybe elsewhere it is mentioned. But the zodiac is different than the nakshatras. But zodiac is also star constellation. Nakshatras also star constellations. One is the zodiac is where we observe motion of the sun primarily, but you can also say that the moon is going through zodiac. But in addition to the zodiac, the moon is also going through this set of 27 or 28 constellations, which is known as the nakshatras. So the radius or how this far from the Bhumandala, I don't know, it's not mentioned. But we know one thing is that the zodiac and the nakshatras, they have the same motion. They are moving on the same wheel of time. So that we know. Therefore, when we say motion of the moon through zodiac or motion of moon through the nakshatras is the same thing, because their motion is the same in the clockwise direction. I think he has more questions.
Maybe I'll ask one more question in the interest of time. So another question is, in the Manasotra mountain, you showed the picture of moon. the
Showed
top.
picture of?
Not picture of moon, but
Dhruvaloka.
Not Dhruvaloka. On Mount Manasatra, Indra, Yamaraj, Varuna, and moon.
The residence of moon. Yeah, right.
So how are we to understand that moon, which is on Mount Manasatra on the radius of sun? And according to Surya Siddhanta, you're mentioning moon may be higher than sun, but inside the distance, the radius from Bhumandala is closer.
Yeah. So moon means we understand the moon as the luminary in the sky, moon, right? But actually the presiding deity of the moon is the moon god, right? So moon can either be referred to the luminary or the person, moon god, who's residing on moon, right? It can be either way. Which one is more important? The moon god, right? Because from the deity comes the actual luminary, or he's in charge of the luminary. So the moon god can also has a different house. Just like we have one residence, we have a vacation house somewhere. So the moon, although is controlling the movement of the moon, the luminary in the sky, he has another residence, and some kind of representation of him is also residing there. So it's not the luminary. The Vibhavari is like a residence of moon in a different location, but his primary residence is on the moon, but he has a different house also.
One simple follow-up question. You were mentioning something similar about Brahma also, where Brahma is situated in Brahmaloka, and he's also situated in Swargaloka.
On Swargaloka. And it's actually the presiding deity of Pushkar Dweep. The reason it's called Pushkar Dweep is because there's a 1 million petal lotus there. And that's the residence of Brahma on Pushkar Dweep. So when we studied Bhumandala, we had presiding deity for every Dweep, right? So Pushkar Dweep is Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma is many places.
So how are we to understand the soul and the subtle body? How do they interact for them? I mean, for us, the soul is inside the subtle body, covered by the gross body. But how do we understand different gross and subtle bodies, even though they are just one soul?
Good question. I don't have a clear answer to that, because it's hard to imagine what these personalities are like. That's the main reason. I doubt if Lord Brahma has gross and subtle body like us. Yes, maybe she was microphone. Oh yes, that's right. So Prabhu, you can explain.
So it's mentioned that the mystic yogis can expand themselves. Means that they can create the bodies and then and expand themselves and be at the same time in 9 different bodies. But the soul is the same.
Okay.
But because the mystic powers, they can. So but Krishna is infinitely capable of expanding, whereas we have like limited capability.
Yeah, we almost have nothing, right? No mystic powers. But Lord Brahma, arguably he will have mystic powers. I mean, he's controller of the entire universe.
Tremendous amount of powers in terms of what they can accomplish, changing their bodies. For example, we hear Indra changing his bodies different ways to suit different, as a Brahmana, for some activities. Let's not get into that. But he does change his bodies. They can change bodies at their will. They can expand themselves, be at one place. Imagine we can do it in Kali Yuga. It'll be chaos. I didn't kill him because I could expand and go actually kill him. But I was here. People know I was in my office. But here I was doing some crime elsewhere. So if you have... seriously, you can have a lot of complications.
Siddhis, mystic powers, siddhis. Yeah. I think that's a good explanation. Okay, next question, Sukeshwari Mataji, and after that, to Prabhu.
Just wanted to add one comment to what Shivas Prabhu said was the example of Kardava Muni is given where he expands.
He expands into 9 expansions.
9 expansions in the Bhagavatam. Right.
Mystic powers, yeah.
Prabhu, I was just thinking that the clockwise, anti-clockwise we were talking, so it's just more an illusion.
Illusion?
I mean, it's not really happening. It's actually going all the same way, but it's just the change. Actually, so the the difference is what is causing it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And the second part I was just thinking was the Mansotra mountain is on Bhumandala actually.
Yeah, on Pushkar Dweep.
Yeah, on Pushkar Dweep.
Part of Bhumandala.
Yeah, but when you were looking at is moon? The moon is not on Mansotra.
No.
Okay, so only the sun planet is going on Mansotra. The picture that you were just showing, so I was just thinking that Sumeru mountain, we were discussing whether it is actually has to be a little more on the top or on the bottom.
You mean the axle, right?
Yeah. So I was just thinking that probably there is a lot more Sumeru mountain below Bhumandala, right?
There is, yeah, a little bit goes under Bhumandala, like 16,000 yojanas and 84,000 above. So it's total 100,000.
Oh, so 84 is above?
Above.
Oh, okay.
Total 100,000.
Okay. And the Loka mountain that we were talking about that has actually all the desires of the people, it actually goes only till the Saturn and not above the...
No, it goes up to Dhruvaloka. I mean, almost, I don't know exactly. No, not Saturn for sure. It goes up to Dhruvaloka.
No, sorry. It probably shouldn't go above the sages and Dhruvaloka, right, Prabhu?
It doesn't go above the Dhruvaloka, no.
Yeah, because the desires probably... like according to Srimad Bhagavatam earlier thing, we had thought that those people, when there is a devastation on the lower planets, all the people who are mystics, who have reached that level, go up to that sages level, and they actually can see the devastation happening down, and they take their own aeroplanes and they fly up. So I was just thinking that means anybody who has those desires, probably that Loka one probably has to stop there, right?
So which desires are you talking about?
I mean, so I was just thinking about the local mountain. We talked about the unmanifested desires stay there, right?
Unmanifest karma.
Karma, sorry.
Beyond the local mountain.
Yeah. So I was just thinking if that probably should not go above the sages and where the Dhruvaloka is.
Yeah, I think when we talk about karma, we are mainly referring to Bhumandala and this planetary system. Okay. Which is covered by the Lokalok mountain on the side. Next time the last seminar we'll talk about the other realms above pole star. There's like Maharlok, Tapalok, Janlok, and so on. So there I think the nature of activities and transactions are totally different. Yeah, because they're above even Dhruvaloka. So I don't know if they have karma, what exactly is going on there. We actually have very less information about those realms in the Bhagavatam. So I will mention briefly about those, but I can say that the Lokalok extends up to pole star, and that has something to do with how our karma is being transacted through the pole star into the Aloka Varsha and so on.
Yeah. One last, Prabhu, a little confusion with the moon and the sun moving.
Closer.
The moon and the sun moving. So the moon, you said it takes 2.5 zodiacs.
No, not.
And then later I realized that it's not the zodiacs. So nakshatras are totally different to zodiac.
Right.
Okay, so it's one zodiac for the sun approximately, and it is about 27 nakshatras per day.
One nakshatra per day.
One nakshatra per day, so it's per month.
Per month, 27 nakshatras.
Okay.
For the moon.
Okay, and then for per day is one zodiac for the sun.
No, one zodiac is confusing. So if you think of the zodiac, then there are 12 zodiacs, right? And sun goes through one zodiac per month.
Yeah.
But then if you calculate the motion of the sun with respect to the nakshatras, then it is 2.25 nakshatras constellations in a month. Because 12 times 2.25 is 27. But if you come to the moon, then let's not worry about the zodiac, because there are 12 of them. Let's worry about the nakshatras, it's 27. The moon goes through one nakshatra in a day. So it comes back to the same point in 27 days, and that's a month. That's the lunar month.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, very nicely presented, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Prabhu.
Just one comment I want to add was you can also equate the zodiac to Rashi.
Yeah, zodiac is the Rashi. What we call Rashi is the zodiac signs. Yeah, and the nakshatras are the lunar mansions. So in astrology, both come into picture: Rashi and the nakshatra.
So I have one question, Prabhu.
Okay.
So in this the diagram that you showed. so there are 3 types of heaven, right? So are there? So it also fits in some of the heavens.
No, okay, that's a good question. I think somebody also asked this in the sheet. So the 3 types of heaven, right? The Divya Swarga is on top of Mount Sumeru. The Bhauma Swarga is in Bhumandala, but the other 8 Varshas, except not in Bharatvarsha. Bharatvarsha is a land for fruitive activities. The other 8 are, they are called Bhauma Varsha, right? The heaven on earth. And then there is, Bhauma Swarga, not Varsha, Bhauma Swarga. And then there is Bila Swarga. Bila Swarga means subterranean heavenly planets. Yeah, so the ones that are below Bhumandala and a little bit above Bhumandala, which is the Bhuvarloka. The Bhuvarloka is also counted as the subterranean or the Bila Swarga. We'll talk about it next time. So although the sun, moon and everything else is above Mount Sumeru, they are not considered part of the Swarga. Yeah, that's an interesting observation. They are not counted as part of Swarga. Swargaloka is the... Yeah.
Which are not considered as part of...
The sun, moon, all these different planets, although they are above Mount Sumeru, right? They're not considered part of Swargaloka. Yes, Prabhu.
So, a little confusion, back to the basics. So, do the zodiacs consists nakshatras? Are they subset of zodiacs, or are they different set of entities?
They're different constellations.
Okay.
They're different.
So, constellation is zodiac.
So both are referred as constellations because they are star constellations. You can refer this you can also refer to both as constellations, but the zodiac is different than the 27 nakshatras.
Okay. The other point is, when the sun passes through different zodiacs, you get different seasons or different seasonal changes. Is it because the distances are different that it passes through, that because of the light comes less to the earth? How does the passing through?
So we don't mix the 2 pictures, right? We don't talk about light and light coming to earth, and that holds in the solar system picture, and that's how they explain the season. Hare Krishna. So that's how they explain that when the sun is further away, then it's winter because there's less heat. When sun is very close to the sun, then it's kind of sun is very close to the earth. It's kind of summer. It's very hot, and we go through that seasonal changes. The explanation for seasons in the Vedic cosmology is it is as it goes through different zodiacs, and especially if it is in Uttarayanam or Dakshinayanam. So it is mentioned that the orbit of the sun, we have made a simplification. It's like in a plane, right, on top of Mount Manasantara. But it's actually not in a plane. It goes a little bit above, it comes a little bit down in its orbit while moving. And I think that has something to do with the seasons. But it's still not the same explanation that more heat coming, more light coming. No, we don't refer to those things. But how exactly the season is happening, that's a good question. I will say something about it towards the end. Okay, but the orbit is not entirely flat, it's not in plane, it goes sometimes a little bit above, sometimes a little bit below. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. I didn't read that part, but that is that has to do with the...
One last question is the explanation of sun's light reflecting on the moon. So is moon a luminary object in of itself, producing its own light independent of sun, or is the sun still kind of providing according to Vedic perspective?
So I think I read somewhere in this section of the Bhagavatam that sun is the original source of light within the universe, and moon is reflecting some of that light. Yeah, even according to the Vedic understanding.
Right. I mean, the Srila Prabhupada says that there is only one source of light for the entire universe.
And that's the sun.
That's the sun. Okay. So in essence, then what the moon, quote unquote moon, we see is the light of the sun. And then maybe later when you can explain how the waxing and waning of the moon, which is not the scientific explanation, but the curse on the moon planet.
That's right.
That is something that...
Yeah, I was not going to go into it, but since you mentioned, You can say if you know the... okay, so I also read this. So it's not in the Bhagavatam, the waxing and the waning is not mentioned, but it goes to 27 nakshatras, right? So each nakshatra is said to be the wife of the moon god. And he gets a curse. I forget the exact story, but I think he likes to spend more time with one of the wives than the other wife. So he gets cursed from somebody, from one sage. And then the curse is that, for part of the month, you'll be diminishing in your intensity, like as seen on Bhumandala, and in the remaining you will be again increasing in intensity. You'll never appear as the full moon all the time. So that's the explanation for the waxing and waning. But he's actually moving from one residence, from one wife to another every day. That's what is going on. Yes, I think Prabhu is raising hand for a long time. I think we should move very quickly because it's 10 already, and we are grateful that the Guru Puja was arranged early today also. But I think it's reasonable to go up to 10:45 or so, right? Not extend too much. 10:30? Okay, 10:30. So we have, I think half an hour is enough. So after maybe 1 or 2 we should move. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, my question was like bit basic, so maybe I missed some points. So we have a definite distance of what sun travels, but as per the solar calendar, if we divide, when we are dividing, we are getting some fraction. And my basic question is why we have months with 30 and 31 days actually. If we are dividing the total distance of sun to calculate the whole year, then month wise, like why we have non-uniformity instead of...
it looks a little bit arbitrary, right? And it's really how the Western calendar is arranged. Because we know one thing is that 365 days and a quarter. That is what constitutes a year, right? And we have 12 zodiac signs, right? Because it goes through 12 signs in a year. So the straightforward way to do a month is just divide by 12. 365.25 divide by 12, and that will come out to be 30 point something, right? But now we cannot have 30 point something as a day. So we need whole numbers. As a month. We cannot have a fraction, right? So then it gets split in 30 some, 31 some, and I don't know why February has 28, and then you add 29th day every 4 years. So sounds there might be a good reason. I don't know. I have not investigated deep enough, but it's just rearranging the days so that you get uniform. Again, even after doing that, you don't get 365.25 because again, hard to deal with a quarter of a day. So cut it off, 365, and then compensate for it every 4 years. So it sounds very arbitrary. So therefore, the solar calendar is a little weird. So as Prabhu was mentioning, the lunar calendar is cleaner. 27 days, one clean cycle, 1 month. Keep repeating.
So in case of lunar calendar, we have fixed days in every month?
27 days.
27 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, last question before we move. That's right, yeah. That's how Ekadashi and...
All right. I have a very quick question. Thank you very much for trying to visualize this difficult thing. So as you said, like Dhruvaloka is on the top and all the planets are connected through Prana. Right. I was trying to recall what is the definition of prana which you did in the first seminar.
Okay, I'm going to explain.
Okay, thank you.
So let's move. Okay. Comment can be saved for the last. Is that okay? Okay. So we finished this portion. So now this planetary system, starting from the moon. Actually, I haven't talked about Rahu. Rahu will come next time. Rahu is notorious. But this planetary system known as the Shishumar planetary system, it includes Rahu, but Rahu is not included here. I'll show it next time. Only Rahu is missing, I think. Everything else is here. Ketu, I'm not so sure. At least in this part of the description, there's no Ketu here. But Ketu is mentioned elsewhere. And sometimes it's said there's one Ketu or there are like 100 Ketus. Because based on 100 sons of 100 sons, they become Ketu. So it's not very clear about Ketu. But Rahu is mentioned, so we'll talk about Rahu next time. But including Rahu and all these planetary, all these planets, starting from Sun, Moon, the 27 Nakshatras, Venus, up to the pole star, this whole thing put together is called as the Shishumar planetary system. Okay, so this is described in the 23rd chapter of the 5th canto. So the very interesting statements arise in the in this chapter, and then that really, suggests that we should understand a little bit more about prana. So that's what we'll do. So in the chapter summary, Srila Prabhupada writes that to concentrate their minds, yogis worship the Shishumar planetary system, which is technically known as Kundalini Chakra. So somehow Kundalini shows up. Okay. And then in the first verse, it said that they're the son of Maharaj Uttanapad, that refers to the pole star, the Dhruvaloka. The great devotee Maharaj Dhruva still resides as the life source of all living entities who live until the end of creation. The life source of all living entities, what is that? That is prana. It's also it can also be translated as life force, but sometimes it's translated as air, as wind, or ropes of wind. There's no good word really in English for prana. The closest I find is life force, because it is actually a force, and our life depends on it. So it is life force. So I'll pause again. So what is this Kundalini Chakra, and what does it have to do with prana? So that's the question that arises. So we have to take a brief detour into what Kundalini is and what prana is. But by no means I'm a Kundalini expert. So don't ask me questions about how to awaken your Kundalini. I have no idea. But much better thing to do is chant Hare Krishna. So our body has these 7 chakras, and there is a center where all the energy in a primal form is coiled up, and that is said to be at the base of the spine. Okay, but first, before that, let's talk about energy. Energy is the ability to do some kind of work, to bring about some changes, to do some activities, right? So this energy in its primal form, that means in some kind of unmanifest form, is stored at the base of the spine in the human body, and it's coiled up, just like a snake coils up, and it in a very compact form sometimes, right? So it's coiled up, and that coiled up thing is referred to as Kundalini, just like a snake. Okay, so this energy flows up and down through left and right channels. So these channels are shown over here to the left and the right. Right, one of them is called Ida, on the left, and the right is called Pingala. And in one, the energy flows downwards. The energy flows upwards. And this upward and downward energy represents the flow or conversion from gross to subtle, or subtle to gross. Okay, so there are these 2 types of energies are flowing in our system. Because of that, we are able to conceive something gross, and we are able to look at something gross and conceive of it as a concept, right? We talked about table, right? Table, the object table, and the idea table. So that is one conversion. The other conversion is take the idea table and make a gross object table, right? So these 2 things are going on, and these are happening because of this energy flow, one subtle to gross, gross to subtle. So the awakening of Kundalini is basically happens when there is a free flow of energy in both the up and the down channels. And that is what is said to awaken the Shishumna or Shushumna, the center path. The center path is where all the chakras are residing. So when there's a free flow of energy, both the up and the down channels, it is said that these chakras get activated through the Shushumna. So I'm not too clear what exactly that means, but But what happens when you get to do that, if you are able to do that, that you can start to exhibit mystic powers. So you get some kind of siddhis. And through this awakening of Kundalini, this is how mystic yogis, they are able to perform some kind of mystic powers. And by this process, you can at most raise your consciousness to the level of Brahman. Okay, so you cannot go beyond that. This is and it comes to conscious Brahman when your energy and consciousness it comes to this topmost chakra. It's called the Sahasrara Chakra. It's like a lotus flower. So, but what has all this to do with prana? The manifestation of this energy as a moving force in the phenomenal world is referred to as prana. So the energy is able to help us do some things, right? Do some activities. But when it is manifest in terms of a force, when it is described in terms of a force, you need a force to do something, to move something, right? Even in the mental space, in the conceptual space, you need a forceful thought to navigate you through something, right? You're stuck over something, you're hung about something. You need a forceful thought to, just cut it all apart and then go into a region of clarity. So even in the conceptual realm, you need a force, and even in the phenomenal realm, you need a force to do some things, right? And that force is prana. Okay, so this moving force is the equivalent of force. We have force in physics also, right? So it's something like that, but it's much subtler. Okay, but this is called prana, and it is because of prana that our body metabolism is going on. There's flow of blood through the veins, through the arteries. Okay, we are breathing in and out. We are able to digest food. It's because of prana. It's because of prana. Okay, so the modern way we understand in different, like completely different concepts and different terminologies we come up with, and the heart is pumping blood and that forces, but really the heart is pumping because of prana, the blood is flowing because of prana. We are able to breathe in and out, prana pana samayukta pachamyanam chaturvidham, right? That's prana. Prana and apana, that means incoming and outgoing breath, that's prana. We are able to digest food, and basically our body is functioning because of this life force. And this life force is exhibited in the body as long as the soul is present. So soul is a storehouse of this energy, which is exhibited as prana. But the material form of this energy is Kundalini. Okay, so the original source of energy ultimately is the soul, but the material manifestation of that is Kundalini, and then when that gets exhibited in form of these movements, that is referred to as prana. Now let's come back to the Kundalini and prana in the universe. So the same concept that we can apply to our body to understand its different functions, is same concept is applicable to the universal manifestation, to how the planets are moving, to this entire Shishumar planetary system. Okay, so the Shishumar planetary system is the Kundalini of the universe with the energy coiled up at the pole star. Just like the energy is coiled up at the base of the spine, the energy is coiled up at the pole star. And the moving force provided by the pole star to keep all the planets in their orbits is a manifestation of the prana. It's the moving force which moves the planets. So just like we are experiencing a moving force in our body, similarly the universal prana is causing these planets to go in their orbits. And Dhruva Maharaj, situated on the pole star, he is controlling this prana. So if you read the story of Dhruva Maharaj in the 5th canto, when he performs austerities, 4th canto, when he performs austerities, he is able to control his prana first, the breathing, and because our prana is linked to the prana of the universe, he is actually able to control the prana of the entire universe. And he is able to choke up the breathing of all living entities, and because of that, the demigods panic. And they go to the Lord and say, what's going on? There's this small 5-year-old boy, he's choking up the entire universe practically. So how does that happen? That happens through prana. So the prana that we are experiencing, that we have in our bodies, is not different than the universal prana. But ours is limited to our body. The universal prana extends over the bigger part of the creation. But it is linked. It's not independent. And that's why Dhruva Maharaj is able to control the breathing of all the living entities. And what benediction does he get from the Lord after he gives him darshan? At that time he realizes his mistake of asking something, but anyway the Lord nevertheless awards him an unrivaled kingdom, right? Unrivaled kingdom, planet, and that's the Dhruvaloka. But he's doing the same thing over there. He controlled the prana by his austerities, because of which the Lord appeared. But by the Lord's benediction, he is now residing in Polestar, and he has a very important function to perform. He is still controlling the prana of the universe. And how is that prana manifest? The prana is manifest through the motion of all these planets. Okay? So the explanation for the motion of planets is through prana. It's the prana of the universe, which Dhruva Maharaj is controlling. So let me read a little bit more. Fastened by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the machine of the material nature according to the results of their fruitive acts, they are driven around the pole star by the wind and will continue to do so until the end of the creation. So he's referring to the planets, the motion of the planets. So you see the word wind, so that's prana. So driven around the pole star by the wind, by the prana. And there's one more, I think. This form of the Shishumar has its head downwards and its body coiled. So Shishumar refers to a dolphin. Okay, the dolphin's tail is at the pole star. The pole star is at the tail end, and the dolphin is inverted, like upside down. Okay, so the Shishumar planetary system, the yogis realize as some kind of transcendental dolphin. And the pole star is at the tail, where the Kundalini is. And the head's coiled up. On the end of this tail is the planet Dhruva. On the body of its tail are planets of the demigods, Prajapati, Agni, Indra, and Dharma. And at the base of the tail are the planets of the demigods, Dhata, Vidhata, and so on. So the entire Shishumar planetary system has been described in the 5th canto, which planet is located in which portion of this dolphin, or the Shishumar. Okay, so that's the Shishumar planetary system. That's where the name comes from. And and that's how it is described. And you see the important function of prana. Without prana, there's practically nothing going on, nothing moving. And the importance of Dhruvaloka and Dhruva Maharaj. Okay. So now if we go back to our original picture where we showed the chariot wheel, the sun god's chariot, and here also it was mentioned that the upper end of this axle, the second axle, you remember the second axle connected to the first axle, and that was attached to Dhruvaloka by rope of wind. This rope of wind is nothing but the prana of the universe at work. Okay, so these concepts, the axle, the rope of wind, propelled by the wind, and so on, they become clear once we understand prana. And the another important thing I want you to notice is that what we use, the concept that we use to describe the human body, the same concept is used to describe the Shishumar planetary system. That means the concepts are the same at an individual body level or at the gigantic universal level. The concept is the same. It's not like in modern science, right? When you come to the digestion of food, what do you ascribe digestion of food to? Some kind of secretion of acids. And why are the planets moving? Gravitational force, law of gravity. Does acid have anything to do with gravity? Nothing to do with gravity. But in the Vedic system, the prana is responsible for digestion of food. The prana is also responsible for the motion of the planets. So if you have a same theory explains more diverse phenomena versus new theory for every phenomena, which one is better? Same theory. The answer is self-explanatory, right? The more phenomena you can explain with the same concepts, that theory is better. Even from the perspective of modern science, if your theory can explain a more diverse set of phenomena, it's considered to be better. It replaces the older theory, which explains only a tiny fraction of the phenomena. So if you notice how the knowledge is compartmentalized in today's world, chemistry, biology, physics, zoology, astronomy, this, that. Even within physics, there are so many branches. One has nothing to do with the other. One branch of physics doesn't talk to the other branch of physics. They go in different directions. They develop their own things. And later on they find, oh, contradiction. What should we do? Now reconcile. And that's a big effort. That's a big project. And you need another big theory. So, gravitation goes one way, quantum theory goes another way. The two cannot be reconciled. This is a fact. This is a fact. The two most prominent, most successful theories in modern world, quantum theory is the theory of atomic world, gravitation, the theory of the heavenly bodies. The two are fundamentally not compatible. What do? We're stuck. And Albert Einstein, till the end of his life, he's tried to reconcile. Actually, he never accepted quantum theory wholeheartedly, but it was so successful that he was forced to take it. He maintained his opinion till the end that nobody understands quantum theory. And you can make that claim even today, that nobody understands quantum theory. Gravity, yeah, to some extent, kind of, we have a physical picture, so it's okay. But he struggled with this idea till the end of his life. Gravity and quantum theory, which we don't understand, but it works so wonderfully, so there must be some reality to it. They're incompatible. So the atomic world, different description than the huge phenomenal world that we experience. So that's a big problem. That's a big problem. And if you come to the Vedic version, the same concepts applied everywhere, and you can explain very nicely. One source of truth. Srivastava Prabhu saying one source of truth. Yes. So actually, yeah, I'm pausing here for questions. Actually, I had a pause for questions, but because we are running late, I'm going to just finish. Yeah, there's not a whole lot, but let me finish, and we'll have time for a few questions. What about gravity? We explained, or we tried to explain everything in terms of prana, the motion of the planets and everything. So I'm not going to read the whole excerpt from the purport, but just the underlined portion. According to description of this verse, hundreds and thousands of stars and the great planets such as the Sun, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars and Jupiter are not clustered together because of the law of gravity or any similar idea of modern scientists. These planets and stars are all servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna. And according to his order, they are still riding their chariots and they'll travel in their respective orbits. Continuation of the same purport. Later on he says, referring to the Brahma Samhita verse, Raja Samasta Suramurtir. This verse from Brahma Samhita confirms that even the largest and most powerful planet, the Sun, rotates with fixed orbit or Kala Chakra in obedience of the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This has nothing to do with gravity or any other imaginary laws created by the material scientists. So I don't know what you read from this, but my reading is that there is no such thing as gravity. It's a very simple, straightforward and honest reading from Srila Prabhupada's purports. And I guarantee you that you'll never find such statements in any other scripture, let alone other literature in the world. Srila Prabhupada has given us such unique insights in the modern world that without his work, we cannot penetrate through this darkness that covers us in the name of science. Okay? It's really darkness. So what is this gravity? It can be understood in a simple manner. It can be referred to as an epiphenomenon. So what is epiphenomenon? Epiphenomenon is a side phenomena which occurs with the primary phenomena, but it doesn't cause the original phenomena. Okay, it occurs together. So it's a very simplistic picture. It's not, there are more details to this, but I'm just giving you a little bit flavor here. So if you have a cause, C, and the cause is responsible for two effects, A and B, and they always occur simultaneously. If you're not aware of C, if you cannot see C, then what will you do? You'll assign causation between B and A. B is causing A or A causing B, whichever is convenient or whichever seems reasonable. Okay, but correlation is just only a correlation. The same cause causing two effects, So B and A are correlated, they happen together, but one is not causing the other. It's just that we cannot see C. So correlation does not imply causation. So similarly, the supreme will of the Lord is responsible for the motion of the planets. That's what we read in Srimad Bhagavatam. But by the will of the Lord also, these scientists are able to create these theories with their mind. The Lord is allowing them to do that. Okay? That's a fact. They're not cooking up theories out of nowhere. The Lord as the Paramatma is allowing them to create these theories. And then naturally we assign the connection. The theory is explaining the motion. That means the fundamental elements of the theory must be responsible for this motion. So gravity is all a concept, right? Mathematical calculations, you can show that it exactly predicts the motion of the planets. Wow, works so wonderfully. That means this thing called gravitational force must be the reality associated with the motion of the planets. So you see how the connection happens between the theory and the phenomena. But it is actually an illusion. It's an illusion. So I've given you just a small demonstration, but it can be extended to other domains. Basically, a pure, simple, honest statement of my understanding is that modern scientific theories are illusory. Okay? Who is creating this illusion and why? We understand from Bhagavad Gita, Mama Maya Duratyaya. Krishna says, it's my energy, it's my potency. Okay? In the purport in the 23rd chapter, material scientists, so why? Right? Who is creating the illusion? Krishna. But why? Material scientists want to avoid the ruling government of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore they imagine different conditions under which they suppose the planets move. So they want to avoid the explanation that the Lord is responsible for creating these planets and moving them in their specific orbits, like the sun. But they don't want to take that explanation. They don't want God. They don't want God out of the picture. They don't want God anything to do with reality. So they what result do they have? They have to come up with a theory. They have to come up with a theory which displaces God. And that's what basically happened in the Western Hemisphere during the scientific revolution. Somehow in the Western thought, in the Christian theology also, this idea came into was kind of spread throughout the world, and the Christian theology also, they had angels driving the planets. That was the idea, that there are angels which are driving the planets, and that's what keeps them in motion. And Earth is situated in one place, the sun is moving, moon is moving, all the planets are moving, just like we have in the Bhagavatam conception. So you can see the Vedic understanding may have pervaded other parts of the world, and it must be. But then with the law of gravity, precise mathematical calculations can predict the motion, so forget the angel. No more angel. Our angel is out of the picture. This is exactly what happened. So with the advancement of these theories, basically they say that no more God. God is out of the picture. Mayaya aparita jnana. But what kind of knowledge is this? It's basically illusory knowledge. It is jnana. We don't deny that, right? That's why it is being taught as knowledge in colleges, universities. Everybody is learning this. But what kind of knowledge is this? It's the knowledge which is acquired when the real knowledge is taken out. It's taken away by the illusory potency of the Lord. The real knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam or the Vedic scriptures is taken out, and you take some substitute knowledge and be happy with it. It's that kind of knowledge. So don't be too impressed with scientific theories. That's my message. And more. We have more and more evidence, right? So Lord Krishna says in one of the Chatushlokis of the Bhagavatam that, O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, it has no reality. Does gravity has anything to do with Krishna? Do you find Krishna anywhere in theory, gravitational theory? Then it is not real. It has nothing to do with reality. But it appears to be real, and that's why it's called illusion. What is illusion? It appears to be real, but it's actually not real. So that's illusion. So it's very hard for us to convince others, maybe, but but at least from readers, students of Bhagavatam, we should be convinced to some extent. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains what that darkness is. The darkness is darkness of ignorance, darkness of no knowledge, no real knowledge. It's not darkness where light is off. Not that kind of darkness, darkness of ignorance. No real knowledge, that means darkness, and that is where all these things come into picture. This is my last slide. Okay, so just hold on for a few minutes. Now I've given you a very wonderful, nice picture, and you must be very happy with the explanations. But I want to tell you something very important, that we have a very real challenge ahead of us. So to some extent I have tried to explain the observable phenomena can be related, can be linked to theories which seem to explain these phenomena, the reality of nature, but also explain why this is illusory, right? And we have the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the science of Srimad Bhagavatam way up high somewhere, right, in a completely different plane, so that we can detach ourselves from this illusory kind of knowledge and we can actually take shelter of something real, something tangible. But even though we have this, we are actually sad. The devotees are sad. And the scientists are declaring one victory after another, getting one Nobel Prize after another. Why? Why? Because their theories are successful. They are able to explain observable phenomena. Although it is a fact that they can only explain one here, one portion there, one portion there, one portion there. When you try to fit all things together, doesn't work, right? But they don't care about it. As long as you can explain this, they're fine with it. That kind of knowledge is okay with them. So they're declaring victory. And although we have Srimad Bhagavatam and we know this system of knowledge is basically useless, but we are still sad. Why? Because we want to extend this knowledge to others who are going on with this illusory sense of knowledge, and while being in illusion, they are basically suffering. Right? Whoever is taking shelter of scientific theories, including the scientists who discover those theories, they are all suffering because they have no real knowledge. So although we are happy with Srimad Bhagavatam, we can study it for the rest of the lives and be happy, content with ourselves, but that's not our mood, right from the beginning. That's not the mood of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya's mood is that although I am fully satisfied, I have nothing more to ask for. I have the Hare Krishna mantra, I have the Srimad Bhagavatam, I have the association of devotees. What more do I need? But I'm still sad. We are still sad. Why? Because we are not able to rope in these guys to a higher platform. We are sad because the other people are suffering, and in their state of suffering, they are declaring victories. So it's a very sad state of affairs. But even if we try to talk to them, it doesn't work. It works only to some extent. They will ask, yeah, you have a very nice science. Yeah, you have a very nice model. Okay, very nice. So tell me how day and night is happening. Tell me how seasonal changes are happening. Tell me how phases of the moon are happening. So if I start talking about moon going to each wife in a day, then we'll say, okay, that's it. You go and be happy with your science. I am happy with my science. So we don't have a platform to establish a dialogue. If you talk directly, say you be happy with your God, you be happy with your science, I am happy with my science. And what is their strength? Their strength really is they're able to explain observable phenomena in terms of mathematical laws, theories, or whatever. So what do we have to do? I mean, it really impels us to do is that we have to come down using our science to a level where they are located, where they are attached to. So we have to explain observable phenomena with respect to our science, but in a way which is satisfying and which is in a way that they're able to accept. So we have to explain observable phenomena, but better than them. One way of how it can be better, I have already given you an example of that. We can explain more diverse set of phenomena under the same umbrella, right? We can explain the human body, we can explain the Shishumar planetary system using prana. You don't need two different concepts which have nothing to do with each other. So we have to explain, and that's the platform where we can establish a dialogue. So it is through this route, that they will come to Srimad Bhagavatam. They will not come directly like that. Yeah, I will come to it. So Mataji asked, is that the Vedic planetarium? Yes, that is the Vedic planetarium. But more than that, because I don't know exactly what's going to come in the Vedic planetarium, but presumably it will be the Vedic cosmic model and some explanations. But will those explanations be at this level? I don't know. But if not, then we have to extend ourselves down to that platform. And this is the actual battlefield for preaching. So if we stay high up here and expect the world to change, then I'm not so sure if we can make a big change because of just the way how it is set up. But this will be the actual battleground for preaching, and that is where we have to do a lot of work. There's a lot of work lies ahead in trying to convince others in a way that they can understand. And we get this, we don't have to extend ourselves, but that flows in our parampara. Srila Prabhupada had no reason to come out of Vrindavan at a very advanced stage, right? But without which we wouldn't be here, right? So he extended himself out. He came out of his comfort zone, and we have to do the same. I mean, we are satisfied with Srimad Bhagavatam. I am perfectly satisfied. I don't need any other explanation. But we have to come out of a comfort zone. And Prabhupada wanted us to do that. He said, I quoted one letter at the beginning where he wrote to Swarup Damodar Maharaj and said that the universe is like a big tree. And the continuation of the same letter, later paragraph, he says, if we can explain the passing of seasons, eclipses, phases of the moon, passing of day and night, etc., then it will be very powerful propaganda. So that's really the challenge ahead of us. It's not really about being convinced of Srimad Bhagavatam. With some amount of effort and association of devotees, we will be convinced. But how do we take it to the next level? So with that, I'll end. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So sorry, we did go over time, but it's 10:40. We had an elaborate question answer session in the middle, right? So if we can have a short one now for a few minutes, we can break for prasadam, right? So couple of hands, let's pass the microphones. So these are the topics we covered in case you would like to review, right? We talked about time, sun, moon, the planetary systems, Kundalini, Prana, what about gravity, and what's the real challenge that lies ahead of us. Oh, I should mention before I take questions or comments, I know at least few devotees who are working on this. It's not that, I don't want to portray it in a way that, I'm coming up with this for the first time. I know devotees who are working on this, they've dedicated their lives facing the real challenge, but they're very few. You don't even need two hands to count. Just on one hand you can count the number of devotees working on this. So, presumably we'll need an entire army in the future. Okay, now questions. Can you turn it on?
Really, it's not in the form of a question, sir. I have a realization from what you talk. It has dawned on me one realization that just as the human body at a micro level, it exactly resembles the macro cosmic system, right, through that prana which I am first of all hearing from you, sir. And the analogy of this human system and the cosmology as a whole, well, the present atomic theory of this thing, quantum theory, that an atom in its configuration of having its own orbits of electrons revolving around a neutron and all that, with different levels of energy. It resembles at the macro level to the planetary system also, through this prana. That's an analogy
so the understanding of atom and the understanding of the universal affairs, the planetary systems, similar concepts and similar explanations are applicable in the Vedic system. Yeah, that's is that the point you're making?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's
an analogy which has stuck to me now through your talks.
Okay, yeah, good thought. Thank you, Prabhu. So 2 questions here. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu and... So Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, I mentioned, right, I'm going to address your point about physics laws and stuff. So is that addressed here now? Like motion of planets, nothing to do with laws of physics, right, in Vedic cosmology. So that's my point.
So one question I had, Prabhu, was that, of course, you talked about gravity, how the motion of planets, which you just mentioned. But we see the phenomenon of the effect of gravity within the planet, like for example on Earth. So how do we understand that?
Yeah, it will all be replaced with prana, all the explanations, even on Earth.
Even on Earth?
Yeah, so even just like our body has prana, the Earth as a system has prana. Earth is a living entity. Mother, that's why we call Mother Earth, right? There's a prana associated with the entire planet. And when you try to take things off the natural equilibrium, then you'll see forces which will appear to bring things back to equilibrium. So that is because of prana. But if you don't consider prana, if you want to impersonalize the thing and call it a force, then that can be described using gravity.
So the force of prana is manifested as...
I wouldn't say it's manifested as gravity. Gravity is an explanation for a force which you impersonalize. But if you treat Earth as a living entity which has a state of equilibrium, then you try to bring things out of equilibrium, you'll experience some forces. And that force is the exhibition of prana.
Okay.
Microphone.
It brings up your point way early where the Western scientists saw the gross phenomena without seeing anything and trying to explain everything on a gross level.
Right.
Removing the personality, individuality, God, deities, whatever into the picture.
Yes, that's right, Prabhu. Yes. And also in the first seminar, I think Satya Prabhu had a question, can you give an example of how scientific theories can be verified but they need not be true? So I said, wait for the third seminar. So that was gravity today. Can be verified very accurately, but not true. Yes, Mataji. Microphone.
So Prabhu, we talked about the universal, we talked about the prana of the universe, and we also know about the universal form of the Lord. So is there something similar like a Ida and a Pingla of the universal form of the Lord and Sushumna and Prana?
I'm not so sure. So in general, I'm not fully comfortable with this Kundalini thing. So I don't want to answer the question. Maybe yes, but I don't know for sure. And this Shishumar planetary system, it is said as the external form of the Lord. And yogis meditate on this inverted dolphin form. But that is also different than the entire universal form of the Lord, which like Krishna exhibited on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, or the universal form which is described in the 3rd canto, where the basic ingredients of the basic elements in the material world are manifested. So these are not exactly the same. This form is limited to the planetary system that we talked about today. And I don't know if there's Ida, Pingala. But at least it has resemblance to Kundalini and Prana. Yeah. Rajendra Kumar Prabhu. So I also want to mention that towards the end, so Ramanand Saka Prabhu, I sent you an email with a video. There's a 4-minute video, and I want to save time for that one. Is that okay, Prabhu? This is a video from His Holiness Dhanavir Goswami Maharaj. It will only be 4 minutes, and let me give you a little bit synopsis of the next seminar. So that will be the fourth last seminar. Thank you for tolerating me for so long. But hopefully we can schedule it sometime soon. But that will be a much smaller one. The content will be only 1 hour. So I was thinking we can play for half an hour the original documentary from Dhanavir Maharaj, which describes, like visually it has representation of the entire cosmic model. And today's video is about a new one that they are working on. So he has a message about that. So they requested us to show it. It's 4 minutes, so let's save some time. So let's only take 1 or 2 questions. So Akshanath Prabhu maybe Akshanath Prabhu last question. You can go ahead and then last.
So,
in the meantime, can somebody bring up this
actually
video?
I had multiple questions, so I'm just you wrote in the answers that the earth is sphere and the gravity thing is illusory, everything is illusory. So I was just wondering, if the earth is sphere, then how do we explain that if we go under the earth you can fall down? How do we explain that the seas and all that, they are sticking to the surface of the earth? I mean, I don't understand.
Okay, yeah, let's take that question offline.
Okay.
Any other question?
I think I forgot the other questions.
Okay. So, Akshanath Prabhu. So last question, and then we'll watch this video and we'll end.
I was just, about the universal form, I just wanted to observe that in the Srimad Bhagavatam there are many different descriptions of the universal form. And that kind of speaks to the way the Bhagavatam has this multi-dimensional quality, that it's looking at things from different angles. But the forms we often hear of, they're not a dolphin form, but like a human form with feet, and they're not inverted, because the feet are in the lower planets and the top of the head is in the upper, or the higher part of the
Satyalok.
Yeah.
That is true, yes. The multiple forms of the Lord. And the one that you mentioned covers the entire universe. Then that's a human-like form, like feet and then way up. But the Shishumar is only a certain section of the sky. So that's the Shishumar, that's the inverted dolphin. I think you'll see inverted dolphin here in this video.
Is the Shishumar like a constellation that we can see in the night sky that looks like a dolphin?
It's not a constellation, but when you put all these planets together, these are not part of same constellation, but these are different planets, right? Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus, Earth, the different nakshatras, pole star, everything when you put together, I have not observed this myself, but it's supposed to form an inverted dolphin kind of image. Yeah, the mystic yogis meditate on this form. It is described in the Bhagavatam. Did we get the video? So can we stop this seminar here and then we'll watch this video, and then I hope there's prasadam. Okay. So audio is.
Hello, my name is Dhanavir Goswami. I am a disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In 2003, I wrote a book called Vedic Cosmology. In 2006, I was commissioned by ISKCON to research Vedic literature for designing the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. That year I traveled extensively throughout India, gathering a team of 100 persons. Together we produced a 60-minute computer-animated DVD called Vedic Cosmos. The DVD featured experts on Vedic cosmology, including Vishwanandana Swami, a prominent scholar of Vedic cosmology in the line of Sripad Madhvacharya, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami, Professor S. Balachandra Rao, Professor K.T. Pandurangi, Professor Sheshagiri Rao, Professor M.A. Lakshmi Tatacharya, and Vigyananidhi Tirtha. For supporting evidence, I edited and produced 4 new volumes of books totaling 2,700 pages with Sanskrit and Bengali translations of Vedic texts. The DVD and books have brought consensus from several Vaishnava lineages and elicited input from Vedic astronomers. The documentary was an instant success, gaining appreciation and accolades from viewers around the world. In the following years, the documentary drew more than 4 million views on the internet, a feat rarely achieved for an educational documentary. The time has come for producing a new, updated, high-tech version of the documentary using the latest ultra-high definition, ultra-real computer-generated graphics and visual effects. Therefore, Vedic Cosmos and Intelligent Design is the follow-up of the original documentary. To reach a much wider range of audiences around the world, the new documentary will be available in multiple languages: English, German, French, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, and Hindi, on multiple devices such as Internet TV, mobiles, tablets, 360-degree dome projection format for planetariums, as well as on virtual reality devices. Questions about the origin, purpose, and functioning of the universe have persuaded humanity for ages to explore and research its mysteries. This timeless wisdom is recorded in ancient Vedic texts from India, such as Surya Siddhanta and Srimad Bhagavatam. There is a need for making world-class documentaries to reveal these mysteries of the universe we live in. Vedic Cosmos and Intelligent Design will fill this need. In order to make this project a reality, we need your financial help. The new documentary will be funded through donations. Therefore, I am humbly requesting everybody to donate wholeheartedly. Produced in Ultra HD 4K with 5.1 Dolby sound, cutting-edge computer graphics, and visual effects, the new documentary takes you on a journey so real and enthralling that it will have you rethink about the universe from a refreshingly new yet perennially known perspective. Thank you, and Hare Krishna.
So there is a website called VedicCosmology.com. Is that right? And Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu has sent an email on ISKCON General a few days ago. Let's the next one. I don't know what that is. No, okay. So, so you can go online and make a donation if you like. I would encourage you to do so, because this is important work to visually also show in a documentary how the Vedic cosmic model is according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna.